Hello, YouTube. Welcome on back. I'm Chris.
I'm Johnny.
We are your number one entrants when it comes to sports entertainment content here on YouTube. Back, Episode 3, after a brief break due to life things as well as most of what we're going to talk about today, which is we are going to be talking about our thoughts of AEW Revolution and what has been announced post Revolution, as well as a couple other things along the way. But we have the luxury of two different perspectives of it. I
This
was
is true.
watching at home, enjoying it through the view of my computer screen, whereas Johnny, the
I
lucky
was
SOB, was there.
I was lucky enough to be in attendance. A plane ride and a ticket later, you have one of the best experiences of your entire life. And I will say, because I have not watched the show yet, like in terms of like streaming it back, so I don't know how the crowd was reacting to like what you would actually hear. But for me, I have some takes on matches that maybe seemed better than they actually were in terms of, again, just crowd reaction. So
Yeah,
if we want to
but
roll into this in the pre-show, we can.
yeah, so yeah, we're basically just gonna go down top to bottom from pre-show down to main event. Talk about the parts we loved, the things that we wish had gone differently, the whole 9 yards. So first match of the night, the pre-show 8-man tag match of Bang Bang Scissor Gang versus just an amalgamation of individuals. Because it was Jeff Jarrett, Jay Lethal, Satnam Singh, and Mark Quinn, or something like
Willie
that.
Mack.
Willie
Willie
Mack.
Mack.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
no, that's right. Yeah, it was
sorry. It was
Jarrett.
Jarrett, Satnam, Jay Lethal, Willie Mack, and Private Party.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, because it was the entire. It was yeah, the entire was it the entire Scissor Gang minus.
It it was the entire Sister Gang. It was Colton, Jay, Billy, Austin, Anthony, and Max.
Mhm.
So no one was actually, being a manager or at ringside. It was a
Yeah,
6v6. But I will say, watching the match back, you can clearly tell that someone didn't want to be on the pre-show, and we'll talk about that in a minute.
yeah, dude. Shout out to Max Caster messing up his rap. By the way, I don't know if that was intentional or if that just you know.
I believe at this point it is intentional. I want to say the first rap that he actually flubbed was an accident. I think that's positive, but it was pretty obvious this time around, at least from my POV, it was intentional
Yeah,
because it was everything's going fine, and like the moment he messes up, like it was a super overreaction from like not just the crowd but from like the entire rest of the group. So it's like clearly you could tell they were not surprised that actually happened.
well, and then also feeding into the after match promo of Jay White coming out saying a couple of things and then immediately looking at him and going, "See, Max, it's not that hard,
Yeah.
right?" Like,
So I believe it is building towards something.
yeah,
Um, the overall match though,
it was certainly a match.
it was a lot of people getting their stuff in, and then Jay White being like, "I'm gonna do my 2 minutes of work because I don't think I should be on the pre-show." Which, to be fair, I understand. You look at every single piece of talent in this match, and it's nothing against everyone. I like almost everyone.
I like how quickly that changed.
Sorry, I forgot Jeff Jarrett was in attendance. By the way, North Carolina both loves and hates Jeff Jarrett. Um, I don't think Jay White should be a pre-show guy. Plain
That's
and
fair.
simple. He is probably the third or fourth or fifth. It's hard to put him number one or even top three in this company now, thanks
Mm,
to recent signings, and
yeah.
one of them is on this card, and one of them debuted 25 minutes from my home, which bummed me out. Um, yeah, it's just he's better than this, but I think he wants to do this is the biggest thing.
hmm
So I can't complain if he can't complain because this is building towards something. And of course,
Yeah.
we'll talk about the match he does have coming up later because his opponent is someone who else is on this card, but that's
Yeah.
main event stuff.
Yeah. For
Um,
me, I do agree. Jay White is definitely not a pre-show kind of guy,
mhm.
and if he is, in my opinion, the best way to use Jay White in pre-show is have him be the first match, like they did, in a singles match where he can immediately set the tone and atmosphere for the rest of everything to follow.
Yeah, but
And I think that's why they gave him that mic time afterwards, because that was the
mhm.
thing. That match was, it's not bad, but when you have that many guys doing all of that, and you have, unfortunately, a couple of guys not that don't typically get over well with the crowd, i.e.,
Like
Satnam, because
Satnam saying who is there, and it's like,
he scares me. I'll be honest. Like every time they announce him for a match, I'm so worried because he wasn't professionally trained in this. He was a basketball player beforehand, so he's
yeah,
athletic and he's big, but I
but he
don't
can't
know
really
how
do
much he knows how to work safe.
Mhm.
Right?
I will say, I understand he's like what 7'6", 7'7". I
Something
don't
like
remember
that.
his. Seeing him in person, Jesus, this
Yeah,
of course he's big, but oh my god,
dude,
he
that's
is
how I felt
huge.
when I went to Collision last year, and Lance Archer showed up. Lance
Yeah.
Archer's huge, dude. Like it's crazy how tall some of these guys actually are. Like you hear
Mhm.
it in your head, it's like, oh yeah, he's 6'5" or 6'8" or 7 foot, and it's like that's big, and they look huge on TV, and then you're there in person, and you're just like, oh, you're actually like massive. Like the concept of somebody being 7 foot is crazy because I'm just under 6. I'm like 5'11",
Yeah,
which essentially means I'm 5 foot by
6
most
feet.
people's standard, but
Yeah,
but
you're
like the
you're
con
you're 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 short, but you're not short. It's like,
yeah, but like the concept of like from the top of my head to the top of someone else's head is an entire Subway sandwich is insane to me. Like that frame of reference is so weird to me.
I'm gonna start measuring that now in terms of
That's
people.
how completely off topic. That is how I usually measure things out. Like I will try and envision like how many sandwiches from me to there, and that's how I ballpark how far something is.
Oh, can you pass me the remote? It's like a sandwich and a half away.
Yeah,
Yeah, overall, this is a good, of course, a pre-show match. I'm not going to rate this anything. I believe it went about 12 and a half minutes, which is fine. I will say one of my favorite highlights of this match was it didn't even involve the match. It was before the match. It was Renee Paquette and RJ City talking about like the pre-show and running down all the matches. RJ City is like, the Bang Bang Scissor Gang, naming everyone, and then naming the other team of Satnam Singh, Jay Lethal, Private Party, Jeff Jarrett. And even him being confused that Willie Mack was in this match,
yeah,
he's like, "And Willie Mack?" I was like, "Yeah, okay, thank you." I have nothing against Willie Mack. If you watch Willie on the Indies, fantastic. It's like, but it was clearly they needed a sixth person.
yeah,
So I'm like, okay, that's fine.
yeah, yeah. It just there's it's a weird one, right? And that's the problem with and this is something we've talked about going into more discussion on at some point is like the factions within it, and it's like when you have a faction this big that for story reasons is trying to work together constantly,
Yeah.
it's either you're gonna have all of them versus the 6 to 8 people that are free, or you're
Hmm.
gonna have less of them, but they're gonna win because the remainder of that group is just lurking on ringside, right?
Yeah.
So it's like it's tough, right? And I think realistically, I think what they should have done with this whole supergroup to begin with was keep the tensions and that little bit of like fear and animosity of what could happen
Hmm.
longer. But it's like 2 matches in and they're already clicking, and it's like
Yeah.
now it's a thing of we know the betrayal is coming at some point, and it'll probably be when Juice gets back. But
Yeah.
it's one of those things of like I wish there had been a little bit more hesitation of like the resistance of like I have to tag one of you, and I have to tag somebody from the other half of the group, like Bullet Club having to tag in some of the acclaimed,
Yeah.
right? Whereas right now it's just a thing of like, yeah, we all work together. It's great. It's fun to make fun of Colton because he has an idea and then someone else says it. But it's like it's just, I don't know.
It
It's
is
not
the old.
I don't hate this group, but I don't know how you book them without just putting them against the most random of teams.
Yeah, it is the old adage of someone just saying the joke louder to the reaction. It's
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Right. Which I think is why Colton will be the one to turn. Or
Yeah.
no, is it Austin? I can never
I
remember with
think
the guns.
I mean, I think based on the way everything is happening, and unless we're not gonna go into this, but personal issues with Max, I think Max is gonna be the one. But depending on how personal issues and current things are escalating with Max's personal life, we'll see. It's the
Yeah.
biggest thing.
Hmm.
Um, Now on to match 2,
Yeah.
and I don't
Dude,
like
you got to
saying
see,
this.
you got to see your wife.
I don't like saying this, but this was the best women's match to not make the card
Hmm.
because first of all, I got to see 4 of my favorite female talents, and I will say
Yeah.
at least one of my favorite current overall talents. And it's not
Hmm.
Sky Blue. I will openly say that. I love Sky Blue because I think she's a very gorgeous individual. I got to see Willow
Yeah.
just go at it. Willow Nightingale is just phenomenal. The crowd loved her. The
Oh yeah.
crowd loved Stat.
Willow is so over. It's so
I
nice.
this is one thing that I'm a little bummed out about, but I'm happy Julia was on the card.
Hmm.
I got to kind of see the House of Black entrance, but not the full House of Black. Because
Yeah.
my favorite entrances are when it fades to black and it cuts to the ring and they just there.
Hmm.
It was interesting seeing when the lights went out and the shadows are just moving,
Yeah.
and
Watching the
then
silhouettes scramble to where they need to be.
silhouettes scrambling, and it's like I was like, who? Because I couldn't tell at first, and then they appeared, and it's like Julia's doing the whole standing on the rope, and
Yeah.
then Sky is on the outside. I was like, this is really good. This match, I think it got the proper amount of time. I believe it got 13 and a half minutes, maybe 14.
Yeah. It was lengthy, which is nice.
It was very nice because I think everyone got to showcase a lot of their talents.
Hmm.
I think going forward, I think there's a good chance we're gonna get Willow and Julia for this title.
I think so too. And I honestly, I wouldn't be against if they're gonna change the title's hands. I think Willow is a great one for that.
Hmm. I do have a little bit of an issue though. It's We're building on title matches that are always tag team and then two title.
Hmm.
It is interesting. It's like you're using other people to build a storyline, but then like maybe 1 week we'll actually get the main two is the biggest thing. Because this is not the same. This is the same thing with when Stat had the title. There was several people involved,
Hmm.
and then she was the outlier in that match, which was dumb. It's like Stat's supposed to be the title holder, but it's like she's a secondary thought to Sky Blue, Willow, and everything. It's like I kind of hate this. So I hope if they do get a rivalry and it does go towards a title match, give them time together and don't keep them apart using. I get Sky's gonna be around. That's
Yeah.
because like they're trying to build Sky to be a great wrestler and on-screen personality. It's just like I kind of just want them to, for just a little bit of time, not be a part of this. So Julia gets a chance to shine because she deserves to shine. Because it's like she's a very great individual.
Hmm.
She's a mini taker, and what I mean by that is she's like the Undertaker but small. These are her words on Thunder Rosa's podcast. This is not my words. But yeah, these women bust their ass week in and week out,
Hmm.
and I wish that this could have been on the card, but it would have been hard to remove a match.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough in that sense. I will say, in regards to Sky and the work that she's putting in, I saw a photo recently. Apparently, her face is now on the side of the production trucks.
That is incredible to hear.
Right, which is
Genuinely, like,
super awesome.
yeah, because
If
like,
you, yeah,
because if you
it's
make it there, it's like, yeah, you're like, that's
mhm.
you.
Yeah, you are starting to become a face to the franchise in a lot of senses.
Hmm.
So I do think we are getting eventually Willow and Julia for the title. I do like that, while I agree this should have been a main card match,
Hmm.
it's nice with these four because this has been kind of the only other consistent women's story we have is
Yeah.
the feud between Stat Willow and mostly Sky because they
Hmm.
were friends. Now they've split because of the mist, and that's why Julie is tied into it. And now you've got this whole thing with like Stokely being around to try and help Stat and Willow, which, I think the other reason, and this is my own pure theory, and we'll get into more of why I think this when we get around to what's going to be happening at Wednesday's show. But I think part of the reason he is booking it as tag match that eventually becomes title is I think he's testing the waters for a women's tag division.
Yeah, I can see
Because
that.
like he's talked about, like TK's talked about possibly bringing in a women's tag division soon, which
Mhm.
I wouldn't hate because I've said it before. Like they have an insane, and especially with some of the more recent signings, like they have an insane women's roster that more titles means more opportunity to put more of them out there, especially in tag, because then you would have in hopefully in he knows how to book three matches, three title matches that are all women centric, which bare minimum, if you're not doing like multi-man matches, means we're getting four women in the tag match, two for the TBS, two for the women. So you get eight on a card, which I think is, what should be happening regardless of whether there are titles on the line or not. But at least it helps push it in that direction.
I will openly say I will always appreciate seeing women on TV, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to briefly talk about this. We're not going to get fully into Wednesday, but I will say this about the women's segments. I enjoy having, I believe there's like 3 segments in total on that
Mm-hmm.
show. Maybe it should be more. I did not like that it was match, segment, and that was it. Like back to back to back. Like it was
Yeah.
like match, segment, commercial, segment. That was it. I'm like, they deserve like to be on the show, but not at the same time. Don't just scrunch it, put it in one spot, and then that's it. Like that's not fair to them.
Yeah, you're compacting it all into like one window of like this is the women's window. It's like no, no, no. Spread this out. Make it more across the entire show.
Yeah,
Right.
because again they deserve the same exact time as the men.
Mm-hmm.
It's equal. I understand people like they're not gonna be such and such. It's like I don't care if they're not gonna be such and such. They're still wrestlers. They're still here to make their money and make a
Yeah.
name for themselves. It's not
Well,
fair.
and especially like obviously you can't really compare AEW and WWE because
Hmm.
they are a very different set of things. But even WWE, it's like the reason a lot of these women now are getting into it is because there was women in wrestling back then. And
Yeah,
obviously there's a lot of bad that happened back then, but you still have a lot of respectable female wrestlers that have put in the work and made a name for themselves over the years, right?
yeah,
Even now you've got Becky and Rhea, right? But even you go back and like Beth Phoenix is one I will always go to of like,
hmm,
you know what I mean? Like so many people, even China, right? Like they all paved
yeah,
the way for stuff like this. Why not allow the next generation to continue to
yeah.
pave for the following generations?
So, do you want to hear a weird one that's a little bit that threw me a little bit?
Hmm.
You know Billy Starks, right? Who works with Athena on Ring of Honor.
Yes.
Do you want to know who one of her inspirations growing up was?
Who?
Mercedes Monet.
Really?
Think about that age gap then. Of
Yeah.
that's who she got into wrestling because of and like was a fan of. I'm like the fact that Mercedes I believe is still in her 20s is like and this person's like, "Oh, I got into wrestling because of them." It's like this is insane how like
Oh,
little
look now.
little bit of a time window that is.
Let me see.
Cuz I would like I think she's still in her 20s, but if she's in like her early 30s it also wouldn't surprise me.
Let's see. Mercedes Monet. She is 32.
Yeah, 32. So she's in her very early 30s.
Early 30s, yeah.
So it's like still it's like because I believe Billy is maybe like 19, 20 years old.
Yeah.
And it's
There's
like
only, yeah, like 12-year gap between them. 12, 13-year
yes.
gap.
So it's like wrestling is almost ageless when it comes to wrestlers. And we're
Mm-hmm.
going to talk about that as well on this card because there's a lot of wrestlers on this card that are, up there
Yeah.
specifically. But
Yeah.
do you have anything else you want to talk about in terms of pre-show?
No, I think the way they did it this time was actually really good though. Like doing the hour and a half rather than just the hour and like being able to highlight all of the big hitter matches going throughout, I think was a really, really good idea.
Mhm.
Right.
A few other things that probably were shown a little bit. Of course, they talked about Sting going into his last pay-per-view, his last match.
Mm-hmm.
They interviewed one of his old bosses, David Crockett. He was a gem. At one point, the mics weren't working, so the crowd was chanting, "We can't hear you," and they just went along with a segment on TV, and then had to go back and redo it, which was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Davey may have had a little bit too much to drink beforehand, but he was still a delight because this is what I love about watching it like in house. So you know how like he went to Tony Khan and he was like, this is David Crockett and everything. Seconds, like maybe like 15 seconds beforehand, he is at ringside on the hard cam side,
Yeah.
high-fiving and handshaking like fans
Oh,
and
yeah.
attendants. And then you see him immediately bolt back over and he's like, go. I was like, that's so fucking cool.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I love things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else that happened pre-show wise? Mostly, again, just everyone being excited for Sting, but
Yeah.
like the
Dude,
crowd being
I can't
excited.
wait to talk about that. But let's get through the rest of this card first, because I know you and I are both like going feral to talk about it, because like
Yeah.
for very different reasons. But like, yeah. So opening match, which I did not expect, Christian versus Garcia for the TNT title.
So
Which I get why Christian won, but God, I wanted Garcia to win, dude.
I will openly say this now. I honestly expected, because of the main event, the world title match was going to kick off the show,
God,
because
that would have been interesting.
I didn't think it'd be in the spot it was in. But this
Yeah.
match is still a really good match to start
Mm-hmm.
off the show. Of course, Daniel Garcia and Christian Cage, along with the Patriarchy, Killswitch, Mother Wayne, and of course Nick Wayne.
Yeah, the Prodigy
Um,
himself.
the Prodigy.
God.
Uh, it was a really good back and forth match.
Mm-hmm.
I really like that Christian wrestles to his character and
Yeah.
not just like he has like, because I get Christian is not the most like athletic or youthful wrestler. It's nothing against Christian. I love this gimmick to death.
Yeah.
Truly do. I think there's been a lot of great runs with Christian, of course, like you go back to the tag team stuff, the TNA stuff, him coming back and finally winning the world title. This is probably the best we've ever gotten Christian,
Mm-hmm.
because it's so kind of at its core is very simplistic. It all
Yeah.
started with the whole like, oh, your dad's dead, I'm going to be mean to you because of it. And it's built along the way, gotten so much attention. And then of course you take Killswitch, aka Luchasaurus, an 18-year-old wrestler who is Darby Allin's best friend. I would say best friend, Nick Wayne, and then
Yeah.
his honest to God mother,
Yeah. Biological mother.
biological mother, to get along in this story has been nothing but like peak wrestling. And I'm very happy Daniel Garcia got this match. I believe this went maybe like 17 or so minutes. The fact that Daniel Garcia had no quit in him made me
Mm-hmm.
very happy.
They're starting to really build him as just like not the unstoppable force. I guess better yet would be the immovable object. In
Yeah.
that sense of like, you can knock him down as many times as you want, but he will, as long as there is breath in his body, he will get back up. They did that, and this started with the Continental Crown tournament, where his
Mm-hmm.
only win came from beating Brody King.
Yeah.
Which that match is fantastic. Like the strength he showed in that match was what immediately got him over with the crowd, and even for me. Like I love him. Like when I first started watching and he was JAS, I couldn't give a shit about him, but I think that's mostly because he was so associated with Jericho. But then
Fair.
like that whole back and forth of like, are you a wrestler or are you a sports entertainer? And the fact that they still toy with that here and there is really, really nice. I'm waiting for the day that he confidently just picks one, and I know when it comes, he will pick wrestler, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I think that will be something that eventually shows up, right? I wish it had happened when we had the downfall of the JAS. I think that would have been the perfect time to like really solidify it, and that probably would have started his momentum sooner. But
Fair.
I went into this match really hoping he would win, and if he didn't, I was really hoping we would get the kill switch face turn.
Yeah.
Because like he has to betray him, right? But there's no
I
way he doesn't turn on Christian.
I think that moral code is still in there somewhere,
Yeah.
and I truly hope this. I will say, I think Christian winning, of course, because he's not done with Copeland.
No.
I This is the fan. This is not. I get this was booked very well in terms of win and loss. The
Yes.
fan in me wanted that post match run in from Adam.
Yeah.
Not
We did. To be
because
fair, we did get it just the next week, right?
we did. The only reason I wanted it specifically, because I wanted to
Because
hear
you were
Metal
there,
Gear
you
Solid.
wanted to hear that
I
music.
I wanted to hear "You think you know me," and then the I wanted that
God.
so badly, and it's like it didn't happen. I was like, it's fine,
Yeah.
it's fine, Edge, it's fine, Adam, it's whatever. But it's
Yeah.
like I'm still okay with the match. It's going forward. I think this is gonna be Christian's gonna be fine. Daniel Garcia is gonna be very fine.
Oh yeah.
I hope this leads in a good direction. Maybe the TBS title is in the back window for now, but I think this isn't the last time we see Daniel compete for that title.
No. I mean, and the other thing as well is like the nice part is there are a few other belts he can swing for if they want to carry that momentum, right? Like, I don't know if you put him against Joe for the world title, but like him and Roddy would be a good match. Him and Eddie would be a good match. Like, there are a couple of good options in there.
I will say I don't see, depending on how Eddie's possible next contender, we'll see,
Mm-hmm.
because we may already know his next contender for that title, and I don't know if he's gonna win that match.
Yeah. Um, I will say as well though, the only thing that still sits in the back of my head of like, I want that kill switch face turn,
Mm-hmm.
and I want that betrayal on Christian, and I feel like we'll probably get it during the I Quit match that is now booked in Toronto between Copeland
Yeah.
and Christian.
Mm-hmm.
But my only concern is what do you do with effectively at that point back to Luchasaurus? Because he's always, because of his gimmick, he doesn't talk. So what do you do
No, he
on
doesn't
a
talk.
face turn? Like who do you put him with to be his mouthpiece when he turns? Unless this is like face turn and he full drops the gimmick, which
Yeah.
would be really weird, but it's not like he hasn't wrestled without the mask before. You know what I mean? Because like he
It
was in WWE for a while, right? So
yeah. It also doesn't help that, let's say face turn or he stays heel and he takes Nick Wayne with him. Nick Wayne isn't a mouthpiece either.
mm-mm.
Like neither of them are. Well, I don't know about Luchasaurus in terms of cutting promos. I don't. I know Nick is probably too young to the TV side of things to like fully cut a promo without any issues. But who's to say at this point? Because it's up in the air
Yeah,
to where this is gonna go for everyone else. I think, of course, this is probably gonna be the only run Mother Wayne makes, truly, just because it's like
yeah.
she is there
When the
filling for Nick.
patriarch collapses, Mother Wayne will go back to just being Nick Wayne's mom, right?
Yeah,
I will
but
say the thought in my head, which could be interesting.
mhm,
Let's run this hypothetical. We're fantasy booking now, as we do.
okay,
Copeland Christian. Copeland loses. Just
hmm,
purely numbers game. He's going into this at a disadvantage.
yeah,
No idea what's in that box or that crate that he keeps bringing with him,
hmm,
but numbers wise, he's at a disadvantage because it's him versus Christian, but then Nick Wayne, Mother Wayne, Kill Switcher all around.
yeah,
Hypothetically speaking, if they wanted to have the face turn happen,
hmm,
Copeland lose, Kill Switch turn, and then you have a kayfabe injured Copeland be the mouthpiece for Luchasaurus while he fights to get that title back, and then you do possibly title versus mask,
oh, okay, I can see that.
which I think would be interesting because especially if you wanted to actually give Luchasaurus a run as a solo wrestler with like no affiliation,
Yeah,
that would be the way to do it, right?
I think, and this is a joke, by the way. I think the other way you could do it, you open up the case he's been carrying around,
Mm-hmm.
and Adam's like, "I'm your dad now, Christian." And it's just adoption papers.
God,
He's
do
he's
we
he's
go Eddie Rey Mysterio vibes
he's
from back in the
he's
day?
forged
But
some legal papers, and Adam Copeland is now Christian's dad.
it's actually the I Quit match is actually also going to be somehow a ladder match for the TNT title and the custody of Nick Wayne. Like,
Oh my god. The fact that in the wrestling history books, there's gonna be like storylines that have never been done twice, and it's gonna be the Dominic Mysterio adoption papers or
yeah,
whatever. It's like WWE, you were on one at that point, and I
dude.
don't hate it because it's funny, but
I mean,
damn.
it's worked for Dom, right? Him claiming he's like an 18-year vet because he ran into the ring during that match. It's so funny to me.
This is true. Do you want to kick off this next match? Because this is
Dude, Eddie and Danielson, dude. Oh my god. What a bang. Dude, that match was going to be just an absolute slugfest from the beginning.
this,
And
this
in
match.
my opinion, the right man won.
Yeah. I believe this went 19 and a half, maybe 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
This got, I would say, the right amount of time. Not that it couldn't have gone longer. The way the wrestling went in this match, the fighting, the ability to just beat them down each other.
Mm-hmm.
I will say this, based on matches that happened later, the entire arena was on Kingston's side the
Oh,
entire
yeah.
time. Like it warmed my heart just hearing people scream. And at one point, because I don't think it got picked up on TV, you just hear like a small chant of people going Yonkers, Yonkers, and I was like, oh my god.
Dude, Eddie Kingston is, I think, such an underrated talent in that
Mhm.
roster because, like, his ability to cut, like, is he, the best looking guy on the roster? No. Is he the
No.
most technical? Not by a long shot. Is he one of the most entertaining in terms of his personality and gimmick and what he brings to a match? 100%.
Yeah.
I adore Eddie. I have loved Eddie since the first time I saw him wrestle in AEW,
Hmm.
and it is one of those things of like him having the triple crown right now is so nice. He may not hold it for long based on how things went, but we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. Um it was because this I would say this match had three stages. It had a technical, it had a physical, and then it had just the will to not give up from both competitors.
Yeah.
It played towards Danielson's strength, it played towards Kingston's strength, and at the very end, I think Danielson underestimating Eddie is why he lost once
Yeah.
again. Because this was the third match, like right. This is their third time wrestling each
I
other.
believe no second because the
Second time.
first time was the loss during the Continental Crown, and
Hmm.
that's where the whole motivation of Eddie being like, if I beat you again, you shake my
Right.
hand
Right. Okay. Yeah.
because
Which
I beat you
which I
once and you didn't respect me then. Now you have to show me respect if I can beat you a second time.
which I did forget that was the stipulation of the match. I believe
Yep.
Ace, outside of course the titles. I think Danielson. I don't think there's a real like face or heel. I think he's just a wrestler, which works towards Danielson perfectly because like he's just gonna go out there and have the best matches possible.
Yeah.
That's Danielson to a
I
T.
would argue he is a light heel, mostly because Combat Club is more of the aggressive faction right now, and especially the build up to him and Eddie. He's
Hmm.
very much like he wrestles as a face because he wrestles clean,
Yeah.
but personality he's a heel because every match he had leading up to this was against somebody that Eddie admired and respected, and every time it was either shake his hand because I know it's gonna burn your ass that I'm not doing it to you, or I'm gonna pummel the shit out of them because I don't respect them the same as I don't respect you. Right. So
Fair.
like he's a heel persona, but that wrestles clean, which is
Yeah.
a weird mix because usually heels will always wrestle cheap. But I
Yeah.
like that he doesn't because it keeps him credible as a technical wrestler,
Hmm.
but still allows him to be an asshole.
Yeah. Because I understand he'll do not heel things, but motivational things where he will like slap you in the face.
Mm-hmm.
Like he doesn't do this because he's like, I hate you. He does this because it's like he wants the best out of you.
Yeah, he's gonna pull that fire out of the center of your gut, whether you like it or not.
And he did. This match back and forth, very strongly contested. And I would say this is the third best match of the night. But I think you take the other two matches off the card that are 2-1. This is the best match by a landslide. But
Mm-hmm.
again,
You're
it,
telling
it,
me the 8-man scramble isn't the best match of the night?
so when we get into this for a second, this is primarily going to be you because this was me getting food and having to go to the restroom time.
That's honestly the best
Because
time to do this. I
because
ironically I did the same, except I did it for the entrances because I knew 8 dudes walking in. I had plenty of time to get up, especially
uh
Jericho.
the next match on the card is a all-star scramble match for a future shot at the AEW title. It involved Wardlow of the Undisputed Kingdom,
My boy,
Chris Jericho,
no one's
my
boy.
boy Powerhouse Hobbs, Lance Archer, Hook, no one's boy Brian Cage, Dante Martin, and from CMLL Magnus, who I'm gonna be honest, this felt mean to put him in this match, not because he
Yeah,
didn't deserve it. No one know who Magnus
yeah,
was,
I didn't know either. Right, like
and the crowd went nothing because it's like Magnus. It's like
yeah, I feel
this
like
is
if you wanted a high flyer or you wanted somebody of that style to put in, grab Penta or Phoenix or
yeah
Commander or Bandito. You know, one of the guys that we've seen a little bit more. I get that CMLL has this deal with them now, and like there's probably some contractual obligation to have them around for stuff, but like it just he didn't fit
yeah
other than the fact that this match was booked for meaty men slapping meat and then for very skinny, predominantly high flyer or boxer style fighters.
yeah. So again, it's nothing against Magnus. I have nothing against Magnus. I've just never seen Magnus. It's
Yeah.
the biggest thing in the world. It's like he's there, but also he's there. Like
Mm-hmm.
as a you could either be like I guess a try hard wrestling fan, and you probably know who Magnus is. A lot of the people who are watching this are casual fans.
Yeah.
I test myself in the middle ground. Like I know a lot, but at the same time, I don't watch everything.
Yeah.
I don't watch CMLL. I because again, I only have so much hours free in the day and during the week.
Yeah, you kind of, no matter what, even if you're a diehard fan, you're going to miss something just because there's too much. Even if you
Yeah.
just look at like the big hitter promotions, it's like Raw is 3 hours, NXT is 2, Dynamite is 2. Then Honor Club on Thursdays is like another hour and a half, 2 hours.
And
Then
SmackDown's 2 hours.
SmackDown is 2 hours, Rampage is an hour, so that's 3 hours on Friday. Collision is 2 hours Saturday. Pay per view on Sunday, once a month from AEW now
Yeah.
basically, or pretty damn close. It's like if the only thing you do and your free time is watch wrestling, you can keep up on
Yeah.
3 major promotions, but you're still missing out on AAA, CMLL, New Japan. Like, and that's not counting anything in the indies either. Like,
Yeah. So it's like if this is your true to God like life and hobby, good for you. This is the biggest thing. I'm not going to take that away from you.
no,
That's
absolutely
great.
not.
That's fantastic. But at the end of the day, it's like you can't watch everything, and I don't think it was the right move to put Magnus on this pay per view just because like you're throwing him out there when no one's going to cheer or boo. They're just going to give a no reaction because
Yeah,
he's a CMLL guy that I think they've been doing this partnership what 4 weeks at this point.
yeah, about a month.
Yeah, so it's like it doesn't help him. He gets paid more for being on this pay per view, but it's like he didn't really build any credibility. And
And
outside of this
it's
match, it's like
also like if you had to have a CMLL guy there by contractual obligation, why not grab one of the ones you've shown on Dynamite already?
exactly
Or
like
Collision.
that.
Like grab
Yeah.
one of the ones that we at least have heard the name recently,
Hmm.
so it might stick more,
Yeah.
right? But this whole match, even the booking to begin with, was absurd because it was originally supposed to be a Meat Madness match, which was
It was a fatal four
Hobbs,
way, right?
Archer, Wardlow, and apparently, I don't know. This just goes to show how absurd Tony Khan is. Wanted to also run Keith Lee and Miro.
Hmm.
Keith Lee has been very open to the fact that he is out probably most of the year with recovery from injury because he's been working hurt for like a year and a half.
Yeah.
And then Miro got in a little bit. We assume Miro got into a little bit of shit because he quote tweeted the announcement that the match changed of him being like, "Yeah, no, I've been out since January.
Yeah.
Sorry, he didn't know." And then the next tweet was like, "Buy the pay per view." So it's like in between that time, somebody on like the fine committee, probably Danielson actually, rolled up and was like, "Hey, bro, you got to
Oh.
try and sell some shit. Are we gonna have to like fine you?"
Yeah, because this is one of those things where I think Miro's run with this company, I wouldn't call it a successful one. And he ended up winning the TBS title, right?
Yes, he
Or
did. He's the only one with a custom TNT title.
so Was it TBS or TNT?
TNT. TBS is for the women.
Sorry, the TNT title. Sorry earlier, Daniel Garcia. The TNT title. Yeah, he won that, but I think overall the entire overarching stay in AEW hasn't been a good one. He's felt very uncomfortable, and apparently
Mm-hmm.
this is hearsay. This is not my opinion. This is what I've been reading. He will. They will try and book him in things. Be like, hey, work this with this person. But he apparently, again, this is the biggest thing, doesn't want to lose these rivalries.
Yeah.
Which, if true, that's a scummy thing. No offense, but that's a scummy thing. Because, like, you can't win them all. But if
Yeah.
you're, like, okay with apparently just winning them all or not putting over another talent, why? That's wrestling.
Yeah.
Sorry, bud, that's wrestling. Someone's got to go over, and it's not always going to be you. You're not 2005 to 2009 or 10 John Cena.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. But if he
Yeah.
wants out, he'll probably be out soon is the biggest thing.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk of a lot of guys wanting out, Miro being one, allegedly, and I take this with a heavy grain of salt based on how things play out, but allegedly Buddy Matthews and Malachi want out and to go back to WWE, which I get to an extent because, like, obviously their partners are over there,
Yeah.
but also, like, I don't know. I'm worried if they were to go back, how they would get booked and how they would play out, right? And I think it's partially me wanting to really hold on to the House of Black because I absolutely adore them, and I think they are one of the best trios or the best factions, counting Julia, that they have. But I don't know.
I will always treat whispers or whispers until I said aloud. Like,
Yeah,
it's if it's true, fine, go back to WWE. But you have at least House of Black wise for quite a bit of time. I understand there's some rocky paths at a certain point, but Tony did let you take time off is the biggest thing. I'm not also this is not me putting Tony in the best light. I think Tony has done a lot of really bad things.
oh yeah.
But at that point it's like Tony at least granted you time to take off. And also it was deserved because I believe some was physical, some was mental.
Yeah,
both are very important.
Yeah, there was a lot of like personal stuff that just needed to be addressed that they were allowed to have that time off that they requested.
And I think that's a bold move by anyone because a lot of places, industries, a lot of things will never truly view mental health as an actual like problem.
A valid reason
like,
to step away.
A valid reason. So it's like you still have to work through this. It's like that's not fair. If they just truly just don't want to be there and they can't get that true mindset of I have to go out there and be entertaining, even as a heel, even as a face, that's not fair. They deserve time off as if anyone in any branch of working, like from like the highest of highs to just whatever, mental health it should be taken as seriously as possible, but a lot of industries, a lot of places will not, which is very frustrating.
Yeah. But yeah, going back to that scramble though, Jesus Christ. There's some parts that are really fun. I like that immediately the four like muscular guys were just like, all right, everyone that is under 200 pounds, get the fuck out of the ring. Let's just like it was like a little bit of the Meat Madness match, but just like it was a morsel. It was a morsel of mini meat match. And then obviously then they got thrown out and then the little guys got their shot. But I went into that match, even when it was a Meat Madness match, I 100% knew who was winning that from the rip.
It was Wardlow.
As soon as they said that there was a world title shot for the winner, I'm like, there is one winner because of what the story has been pushing, which is the Undisputed Kingdom gunning after everybody, after certain titles. I wouldn't have hated if other people had won it. The only person I went into that match going, as long as Jericho loses, I don't care who wins this. If this is how Hook gets a run back at Joe, I'm fine because Joe Hook was actually a good match.
That was a very good match.
If Hobbs gets it, they had beef for the TNT before. If Brian Cage gets it, then it could be interesting. I was in the mentality if Cage won, then Swerve was winning. Yeah. Because then you would have had what happens when the Mogul Embassy has a title shot against their boss. Right? Like, there was a couple of other people that, if they had won it, either by planned or if there was just a general, like a mistake or an audible that got called the wrong way.
Yeah.
There were a couple of people in that you could have won that other than Wardlow that would have still been an interesting thing for the future. But since everything kind of went according to plan, it's like we knew Wardlow was winning this without a doubt.
Fair. Um, yeah, there was this match was gonna have some really good spots. I like that Hook didn't care. And what I mean by that is, for big meaty men, he didn't care.
Yeah.
He's like, "Fuck it, I'll suplex all of you," and he basically did. I think throwing Dante in this match was also fun, just from my perspective.
Yeah.
Again, Magnus, we discussed Magnus. Um, fucking Jericho needs to go away at a certain point.
Yeah.
I'm so tired of Chris Jericho, man. It's your one
Yeah.
Chris Jericho joke I'm throwing in there. You're not the Lionheart anymore, buddy. Just it's time to go out to the pasture and hang him up.
Yeah.
I understand you're good for storylines sometimes, but not anymore.
Yeah.
I'm just tired.
I think he did really well to help build up a lot of the reputation for the JAS. Like the people that were around him, come Inner Circle and JAS days. A lot of those guys are now proving that they have the skills to beat big players in this company. Sammy Guevara, Daniel Garcia, even Hager to an extent, and even like 2.0, like Daddy Magic and Angela Parker. Like
Yeah.
they're all starting to, ever since the dismantling of the JAS, they're all starting to walk their own storyline paths and are starting to build a credible reputation, which is good because it's one of those things of they were names you knew because they were associated with Jericho, and now they're names you know because they've disassociated, which I think is exactly what was the smart way of doing this with Jericho around. But now that they're all growing and doing their own thing, either he needs to build up a new group and do it again for the next batch, or he needs to step away.
Yeah.
Because if he's pushing for his own desire for glory, it's no longer your time. You have had an extensive career with a lot of highs to it. At this point, like, what else honestly, genuinely, what else can you do in this company that's gonna matter? Right?
Yeah.
You've
And
had the world title, you've had good feuds and good stories in the beginning. What are you doing now
I
that matters?
forgot he was the first inaugural AEW
Yeah,
champion.
inaugural AEW champ, right?
So I
Like,
feel bad for saying this, but go punish some people's ears and go tour again, I guess.
I don't hate his music. That's the worst part.
I know, I don't. His theme is probably the best part he has going for him.
Yeah.
Like, honest to God. But yeah, I think it's time to take a break for a little bit. It doesn't have to be an extended, like, year thing, but I think 6 months or 4 months or whatever, into the next cycle of, like, true pay-per-views outside of, like, the monthly stuff. I think
Yeah.
time off would be fine. Maybe come back and do something else because you're
Yeah,
always
like,
about reinventing yourself. I think it's
yeah, take some
probably time
time.
for that.
Take some time, step back, help TK book things that matter. Like, work behind the scenes for 4 months. Come back at like full gear.
I hate making this comparison. This is for all my Whovians out there. He's the Doctor Who of wrestling. He can leave and come back and reinvent himself and just be a completely different character, but the same person at the core, and it's fine because it works. I don't know
Yeah.
how it works, but it does. So it's like,
Yeah.
just do that.
I mean, hell, if nothing else, I'm going to throw this idea out there. Take a break from AEW television. You've got a good deal with New Japan. Go be a menace. Go bring the Painmaker back in New Japan for 4 months.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, Jack Perry's currently doing it, so.
Dude, okay, I was hoping. Have you heard what he's doing right now, by the way? Over there?
We could, because we're at what? Yeah, we could take a minute to talk about New Japan.
Dude, so have you seen what his gimmick is right now?
I believe his gimmick is he's a literal scapegoat.
Yep. He
Okay.
comes out in a full black goat mask with an armband that says scapegoat. And he just recently got added into the House of Torture.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, which apparently I looked up to a little bit of it. I don't know a whole lot on New Japan, unfortunately, but my understanding over there,
Hmm.
people love the House of Torture. They're like the third most
Interesting.
popular faction over there. But the American audience, or the North American audience that watches New Japan, apparently fucking hates the House of Torture for some reason.
So, I think we have to agree on this. Maybe I don't know. This has to be a work, right?
Oh, 100% it's a work. This
Like,
was this
like.
was a way to get him away from the situation while they
Mhm.
figured out what was going on with Punk, and it was a way to allow him time to do what Jericho always says he does, right? He's reinventing himself. He's getting to work different crowds and different things in a
Yeah,
way that I think will be better. And it's like if he's working New Japan, like if he disappeared and then showed up in like TNA or like even like one of the other IWGP promotions.
and not really acknowledging it, like just being like
Yeah,
Jack Perry.
if he disappeared and then showed up somewhere completely unrelated, then it's legit. But the fact that he's
Mhm.
going to the company that works closely with AEW and
Yeah,
making a point of the scapegoat gimmick ripping up his contract, like it's a work now.
yeah. Because that's how I viewed it. I was like, but I just want to like, I was like, it could be, could not be. But I think again, the company that you're literally several pay per views with is like this has to be, and it's good to see he's being successful.
Yeah.
That the entire Punk thing is just a lot, to
Hmm.
say the very least. It's a lot. I always liked him because like he went from face to heel kind of naturally. I understand it was
Yeah.
like a turning, but it's like it worked.
Yeah. It didn't
Um
feel like abrupt.
yeah. I he's very good in the ring. Mike's skills are good. They could get better, but the fact that he's also honing his skills as a wrestler in Japan makes it even more exciting to see if and when he does come back.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And we might not even see him until we get the next Forbidden Door, right? Because for all we know, what if we get the Bang Bang Scissor Gang versus the House of Torture, and that's the first time he
Yeah.
comes back, right? Like that is an avenue that can exist.
Or throughout the hypothetical, this is the biggest hypothetical. Say Christian is still champion at that point.
Yeah.
Have them face each other.
God,
He
that'd be fucking
basically
cool.
made him what he is, and not the fact that like he made like Jungle Boy like popular and everything. He made this current Jungle Boy like the reason he's a
Yeah.
heel, the reason he's like
Yeah.
over there
So much of
basically.
his heel personality is a reflection of what Christian's been doing, which is
And
beautiful.
I would be okay with that.
Hmm.
One other brief thing. This is not New Japan related. This is heading back to AW just for a little bit. We did speak on him briefly. Apparently, according to many sources, Sammy Guevara has been suspended from AEW.
Yeah, there's a lot around that because of he had a match on Rampage with Jeff Hardy,
Hmm.
which originally I thought he was suspended because of the shooting star press that ended up very botched,
Yeah.
which that isn't the part that messed it up. So
Hmm.
essentially, and I don't know if you've seen the footage of it, but it's not Sammy's fault how the I stand in the opinion that it is not Sammy's fault how the shooting star press landed,
Yeah.
and that's not what he has been suspended for. So what he's suspended for is after the botch because the way that he landed, Jeff wasn't really like perpendicular to the turnbuckle. He was kind of on a 45. So when Sammy went for it, he had to kind of try and course correct.
Yeah.
Jeff went knees up, but just the way that everything landed, Sammy's knee hit Jeff in the head,
Hmm.
which is on impact concussed him.
Yeah.
The ref then explained to Sammy that he was concussed. Sammy went to finish the match by
No.
finisher, which to me, it like I get they suspended Sammy because he hit a concussed Jeff Hardy with a GTS
Yeah.
or a GTH technically
Hmm.
and finished the match. Should you have called an audible and changed how the finish went to avoid hitting him in the head with your knee after he's concussed? Yes. Should the ref have stopped the
The
match?
ref stops the
Yes.
match.
The ref should have just X sign, end the match, referee stoppage, it gets you the same result and it keeps Jeff safe.
So I haven't seen the match. Does Sammy get Jeff up, or does Jeff get up himself?
I'm not sure. I haven't seen that much of it, unfortunately.
So it could go one of two ways. If Jeff is getting up, the ref should have intervened there.
Yeah.
If Sammy is getting him up, like lifting him up, that is when you full stop. I understand you should have stopped the match to begin with after, hey, Jeff's concussed. But the moment he's concussed, you know, as the ref, and he's getting him up to where you see he's about to do, you full stop. You get Sammy away from him because you know he's about to do something.
Yeah.
But if like Sammy's just like, hey,
Yeah.
just pin him, he should have just pinned him. Is the biggest
Yeah.
thing.
Because you could have, it's one of those things of like, there's so many things that went wrong in that moment that should have been prevented from the ref standpoint that it just, I don't know, man. Like,
Yeah, you call the match there. It's over. It's done.
that was the
It's
same issue we had with Phoenix and Mox for the international title.
yeah, they called it.
No,
Like
they
they did
didn't.
the right. No, they didn't call it. That's right.
Because Fenix power bombed Mox.
That's right.
Mox got concussed.
They
Fenix
didn't
power bombed
call it.
him, or not power bomb, but like tombstoned him or power drivered him again, and
That's
then
right.
did the match.
Yeah.
And it's like everyone gave the ref shit then. We are in almost an identical situation here, and Sammy's the one that gets suspended. It's like
Yeah.
the ref needs to be accountable in that moment as well. I
It
get
is
what
your
Sammy did is wrong, and I'm not saying like he didn't
no no
do
no
the
no
wrong
no
thing,
no.
but
Because
there were
Sammy knew is the
so
biggest
many.
thing.
Yeah, there were so many things along the way. Like it wouldn't have been an issue. Like it starts from where Jeff's was positioned. If Jeff was like I said, all he had to be was like 15 degrees the other way.
Hmm.
You would have shooting star, knees up, bam, wouldn't have fucked anything up.
Yeah.
But that went wrong. Then the ref didn't stop the match when he should have. Then Sammy hits him with a GTH. Then the match ends. It's like there are 3 or 4 points along that journey that somebody should have made a different judgment call and didn't.
Yeah. So I'll explain this briefly. Uh, they check Jeff, of course. They go, Jeff, are you okay? I imagine you can clear signs of concussion. For those unaware, the ref does have a radio in his back pocket and he has an earpiece that communicates him with backstage.
Mm-hmm.
Backstage, of course, letting him know, hey, Jeff's hurt. At that point, I imagine someone backstage was like, hey, finish the match, or hey, stop the match. We're unaware. We're probably
What was
never
said?
going to truly know what was said during that moment. But I imagine during that moment, none of it was let Sammy hit another
GTH,
move.
a concussed wrestler.
I guarantee you there was never in the cards where it's like, hey, continue to risk his health. That's never going to be in the cards because it's going to A, look bad on the referee, which it already does, and B, look really bad for Tony and whoever's booking this match backstage.
Yeah.
Because you have to make a judgment call. And the judgment call there is one of two things. You call a match and hit it, or they just go for an easy pin. That's it. And Sammy still wins, and then they get Jeff out of there, or they just call the match. It's fine. I think it was Collision, right?
Rampage.
Rampage. Yeah, it's Rampage. Just call the match. Like,
yeah.
That's it. Like, whatever.
Yeah, there were so many, again, there's so many things that went wrong that could have been prevented. It's absurd.
Yeah. It is, wrestling will always be an unsafe environment, but the fact that you willingly chose to continue to make it very unsafe for an individual is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of very real injuries, onto a man who has so much back injury apparently going into this next match is ridiculous. And another guy who's apparently very neck strong. We got Roderick Strong taking on OC Orange Cassidy for the international championship.
Dude, this was a great match.
This is a really good match.
I love the fact that, obviously the Undisputed Kingdom pretty much obliterated any chance Cassidy had of having backup, which we kind of figured would happen. But the fact that then Roderick went, all right, Bennett and Taven, go to the back. I got this.
Yeah.
Right? The fact that he actually beat Orange clean, or like without outside interference is insane. But it
Yeah.
also it gives reputation to the Undisputed Kingdom, because at the moment the only titles that group had won, they won through underhanded means,
Hmm.
because Bennett and Taven took the ROH titles when they were still the Devil's Masked Men, when Max was by himself because Joe was injured, right?
Yeah.
So this is the first title they've won legitimately.
Yeah, and I believe during a backstage segment on the pre-show, because I don't know if they showed this, OC is with Chuck and Trent. He's like, "Hey, I also want to go this alone." So it was
Yeah.
actually a true 1v1 match and not just like outside shenanigans. It was a true, I think, like 13-minute match that was just like back and forth, really good.
Mm-hmm.
I think the right person won here
I think so too.
because Roderick Strong has a very outside of the Undisputed Kingdom has been on a roll ever since he came back.
Mm-hmm.
Like the whole like neck injury thing, the stuff with Adam, stuff with of course the Undisputed Kingdom, what become the Undisputed Kingdom, is really nice. And then post that, he's been on a roll on the mic. He's been annoying, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
He's a heel, and then just his in ring talent has always been really really good.
Mm-hmm.
Like his high knees, his just a physical ability, and then his I don't think he really uses, or did he, the lung blower where he just like
Yep, he did. He landed one, I'm pretty sure.
yeah, it's like he's always just super talented, and I hope this continues to go well for him.
Mm-hmm.
I am in a little bit of the camp that the Undisputed Kingdom needs something because you can't just keep wheeling them out every week and
Yeah.
you get nothing or little to no substance.
Having Roderick with a title means we're going to see more of him, which
Yeah.
means other than just them showing up and just being a menace on the side of the ring, now
Yeah.
we have a reason for them to fight and for them to hold their own.
Fair. I will say, after about 13 minutes of back and forth, Roger Strong, of course, capturing the title. We had a little post-match shenanigans.
My favorite part of this match. It sounds weird that my favorite part of the match is after the bell rings. Dude, Kyle O'Reilly's back, dude. I'm
Kyle
so fucking
O'Reilly.
happy.
He's been out, what, I believe a year or so at this
Almost
point?
two, because
Almost
here's
a
the
year.
thing. When I started watching AEW, my first Dynamite was the first round of quarterfinal matches
That's
for
right.
the Owen Hart tournament, in which Kyle O'Reilly, I believe, lost to. Did he lose to Punk? I think
I
he
think he
lost to
lost.
Punk,
So he
and he
did lose.
was
Yeah.
injured in that match, and he has been out since then. The only time we've seen him other than that was when, and this is going to be a weird whiplash, was when him, Adam Cole, and Bobby Fish turned on the Bucks at the start of
Oh
the
my
trios tournament,
god, that's
back when they were starting to
right.
build Kenny's return.
Okay,
And
that
that's the
yeah.
last time we had seen him on TV, and even then he still wasn't cleared.
So, yeah, apparently, almost 2 years, of course, dealing with medical stuff, and I believe it's also personal stuff that I'm unaware of. That I'm not going to look into because, like, again, if it's stuff they want to keep behind the scenes, it's behind the scenes.
Yeah.
It's they have separate lives. I'm very happy he's back. In this post match segment, of course, he was offered an Undisputed Kingdom shirt.
And
They're
he
boys
turned that
already.
down and he whispered something to Roddy. And I have one theory in mind and only one theory in mind.
I'm curious if you want to share.
I think Kyle O'Reilly is working with Max.
Ooh, that'd be
And
interesting.
I think that whisper in his ear is something along the lines of like, Max is coming back for you.
Because we could talk about this because this happens all the time. He does cut a promo on Dynamite, of course, about like he's been gone a long period of time and he wants to go it alone for right now because he could take the easy cop out.
Yeah.
I don't think that's true. I it would be nice, but I think there's more to this
Mm-hmm.
because everything in wrestling has layers.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I have a weird feeling that if/when MJF comes back, his backup is going to be Kyle O'Reilly. which I think would
Yeah,
be really fucking funny. And especially, I doubt this would happen, but if somehow they manage to convince Bobby Fish to come back, I think it'd be so fun if you have Adam Cole and the rest of like Adam Cole and Roderick of the original Undisputed King or the Undisputed Era mixed with Adam Cole, Mike Bennett, Matt Taven of the Kingdom, and then you have Max roll up with the other parts of the Undisputed Era, just being like, "Hey, remember these guys? We are here to fuck your shit up."
that would be nothing less than incredible.
Be
I'm gonna
absurd.
let you take the lead on this next one because I feel like all of these are your boys.
Dude, BCC and FTR in just a straight up grudge match.
Yeah.
I think, and this is probably a hot take, I think the wrong team won.
So,
Combat Club won. I feel that FTR should have won this personally.
I think I know. I think a lot of people know why they may have won this match, though.
Hmm.
This again stems to personal issues within FTR, a upcoming court case, and the indecisiveness of how that's going to go.
Oh, I didn't know that that was still floating around.
Yes, I believe it's coming up very soon, and I believe that
Gotcha.
had a decision because someone might be refraining from traveling very soon if things go according to that.
Gotcha.
I will say though, if that wasn't the case, I truly think FTR should have won this match.
Mm-hmm.
FTR is a tag team that scratch that. I think any of these four men in a tag match, you could just throw them in there against any team, and they'll do great.
Mm-hmm.
Like BCC has proven themselves to be top tier talent, of course.
Well,
Mox is Mox.
Let's clarify. Three
Well, he had
quarters of
hey,
BCC.
hey, he's not on this paper. We don't have to talk about him. He's
That's
the
what I'm
literally
saying, though. How
literally
we haven't seen Wheeler Yuta in like a month and a half, dude.
they're like
Everything BCC related, Yuta just doesn't exist. If he's out with injury, that makes sense. If he's just not there, why?
I'm going to enjoy this being a running thing of no matter what we're talking about in terms of a podcast or just a session of doing stuff, we're always going to find a way to bring up Wheeler Yuta,
Dude, like
even if he's not around.
literally, Wheeler Yuta to us is Goldberg to Bret Hart. Like that, it's just it doesn't matter the conversation; it will be brought up. But like,
It's
legitimately,
gonna be years
where
down
the
the
fuck
road.
is he? I'm
I
looking up
don't
if he's
know.
hurt. I'm looking up if
I
he's hurt.
I don't know, but again, I don't hate the person. I just think Wheeler Yuta, the wrestler, is like not doing anything, and he's not worth doing anything right now because they know he's not getting cheered, he's not getting booed, and it's again, you have two of the best talents in that tandem, that team, in that group in this match, getting heat, getting cheered, putting on a stellar match. Danielson putting on probably the third match of the night, killing it as always, and like Wheeler Yuta is like, unless he's hurt, nowhere to be found. Not on Ring of Honor, not on Dynamite, not on Collision, not on Rampage. Like, and he was a good talent too. He was coming up and he was being
Okay,
fine. He was being cool.
he apparently, according to Fightful, reported on February 16th of this year that he's dealing with an undisclosed injury. That makes sense.
Okay,
That
okay.
makes sense.
Well,
Dude,
Wheeler,
there's a
if you're
lot.
somehow watching or listening to this, get better, please.
Dude, there's so many dudes injured right now. Like, you want to hear this
Yeah,
list? You want to hear the list of people that are
sure.
currently, as of like,
I'm curious.
so Adam Cole, which we knew. Bandito is hurt with an injured wrist. Britt is apparently still hurt. She's been on the injured list for a while. Chuck Taylor, which we knew. CJ Perry, which we knew. Hayter, which, God, I hope she's back soon. Jeff Hardy is now recently on it. Juice Robinson's on it. Keith Lee, Kenny Omega, Kota Ibushi, Mark Davis, MJF, Parker Bordeaux, Penelope Ford, Ray Fenix, Roosh, Sammy Guevara, Scorpio Sky, Stu Grayson, Ty Mello, Wheeler Yuta.
22.
And that's not even like a third of that roster, which is terrifying.
That's yeah. Well, it's kind of not noticeable, which is nice. Outside of like some really big name talent, but still,
Yeah.
I don't wish for any of them to be hurt, but it's like it's not noticeable, which is like that's how deep the roster is.
Mm-hmm.
But I think once Britt gets back, because that's one of the names I think sticks out. I think it'll also help what's currently happening with the women's division.
Britt and Hayter will be huge for that.
Oh yeah, for sure, Britt and Hayter. There's a few talent on there that's like, I'm upset that they're hurt, but it's like these are not a lot of like non-true TV talents, but it still sucks that they're injured. It's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
I will never root for injury, but it's like a lot of this talent, the injuries are coming at times where it's like you probably want to be on TV, but you're sadly not on TV.
Yeah, like the things that suck about that is like Roosh had a lot of momentum through the Continental Crown,
Oh yeah, Roosh is a
lost all
very
of it,
big stinger. Yeah,
and then Scorpio Sky, they literally started doing vignettes of his return, came back and got hurt, and now he's gone again, and it's just like,
yeah.
it sucks,
There's
right?
it's also a lot of those talents where I think they would be okay, and it's not that I'm like get out of this company, leave. I think there's a lot of talent on this roster that again got that moment to shine, but really didn't get anything else afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
That could go to another company and be a big name player there, like a big
Yeah.
star. IB, i.e., like hypothetically again, WWE, TNA, New Japan, the Indies again, because the Indies are on fire at this point in time. The Indies are constantly on fire because
Mm-hmm.
it's fun to be a wrestler right now.
There's so many more eyes on the industry as a whole
Yeah,
that, right? Like this is probably one of the, not the biggest boom, but they've ever had, but a very big boom from a very long time coming.
because again, this is the age of social media. It's like there's
Mm-hmm.
eyes everywhere now. Because it's like either look at Twitter or TikTok or YouTube. It's like there's always eyes on something, so there's always constant people are viewing you. And you can build your draft stock anywhere at this point. But it's like
Yeah.
if you have to go do indie dates, it's not the worst time to do it. Mostly because you're an AEW person.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're like that's a big deal. It's like oh former AEW talent such and such is gonna be here. It's like that's a big
I
deal.
mean, even current talent, Orange Cassidy, like literally like 4 days before Revolution, went and defended his title in an 8-man multi-man match at Rev Pro
Yeah,
in
it's
the
like
UK. Like,
it's incredible that you would like you willingly do this, A because you love it, and B it's like you enjoy doing it. It's like yeah, you could risk injury before a very big match in your career, but it's like on the other side of that coin, you love doing this is the biggest thing.
mm-hmm.
You're only gonna get certain a number of matches in your career. Why not make the most of your current run?
Yeah, absolutely.
But I wish all of that talent nothing but the best, and I hope they come
Oh, yeah.
back and be not injured.
100%.
Wheeler, again, I'm sorry I didn't know you were injured. I feel a little
Yeah.
bad.
It makes more sense now, right? Because that was the thing, is like BCC has been in the spotlight for so long, and I just kept looking like, where the fuck is Yuta? Like, of all the, like, it's in a really unfortunate timing because, you know, they've carried their momentum for a long time now, but especially right now, of like, they're
They're doing their own
so
thing,
over. They're
basically.
so, yeah, they're doing their own thing, which would have been the perfect time for Yuta to start building and having feuds that mattered,
Mm-hmm.
and you just can't do anything with him on that, right?
Yeah. But
But yeah,
I will say, from timeless Wheeler Yuta hate to timeless Tony Storm, this
dude,
match is. Oh,
here's the thing. I have said very openly since we started this, I love Tony Storm's gimmick. But dude, Mariah May coming out dressed as Tony with the old music made me miss that version of Tony so much, dude. I lost my mind when that happened. I was like, "Oh, we are getting old Tony," and then I looked and I went, "Hold the fuck on!" And
yeah.
then the classical hit, and I went, "That's so good." She
Yeah.
looks
She
insanely like
looks
her.
so much like Tony. Like, it's,
Yeah,
like, spot on. I will say, I don't hate any of the talent involved in this match. Gianna is great.
Deanna's
Tony is great.
fantastic.
The story that they've been building for them being old rivalries to friends to like wrestling stardom for Deanna living in Tony's house and like
Yeah.
them having matching tattoos.
And then
Like
adding a knife to that tattoo, which is an
and adding a
insane
knife to the
dedication to
tattoo.
the story, dude.
This match kind of never got off the ground. It should have been better. It's also, I would say, it's on a very good place in this card.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's in between two very good matches because we didn't really know what was coming after this is the biggest thing. Like in turn, because it's like
Yeah.
It was rumored that the main event was either going to be the world title match
Or
or
the tag
Sting's
title
last
match.
match, and it wasn't really decided until day of. Truly,
Yeah.
apparently day of. So we didn't know what was going to be next after this. Um, but it never got off the ground. The crowd wasn't into it. I hope because the story's been building is the biggest thing. It's like there was
Mm-hmm.
substance there, but like no one cared. It's like it was a fine match, but it's just
Yeah.
like it
I
just couldn't
think
get its feet off the ground.
I think part of the reason that it didn't, like, yes, there's absolutely a story there and they built it well. I think the hard part about it was the fact that this was the first thing Deanna did showing up.
Fair.
So it's still like people are learning who Deanna is. And this was a great way to do it because it's like you get the history and the idea of, like, ran the indies with Tony, ran, all this stuff. And it's like if you watch Ring of Honor, you lost
Mhm.
your mind when she showed up.
Yeah.
But for those that don't watch Ring of Honor, unfortunately, me being one of them, it's like I've learned to appreciate her through this story, and
Mhm.
I absolutely adore her in the ring, and I think what she's doing now is fantastic.
Yeah.
But it is the unfortunate part of, because I don't have much of the history from before this,
Mhm.
this is how we learn to like you. Whereas
Yeah.
had she shown up and had, like a feud with somebody else building into this, and at Revolution called out Tony to then build to Dynasty, I
Yeah.
think there would have been a different reaction. Still a great match, I think, and a really good one.
Mhm.
But I also find technical matches will never get a crowd as hype as your more acrobatic ones, right? And it is very much, it is a great technical match, but technical matches are for a very specific crowd, unfortunately, right?
Fair. Yeah. But yeah, I hope this continues just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think this is over. I can't claim Deanna's gonna be the one that takes the title off of Tony. I
No.
don't know if I guess as of this moment of recording, um, I don't think that person's competed yet for the company, but we'll have to see. Is the biggest thing.
Yeah,
That Wendy
there's
Richter debut is coming soon, I'm guessing.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
also will say that I'm very appreciative because we haven't talked about this. The rankings are playing a role into the
Yep.
storylines they're building, which is making me happy
Mm-hmm.
because then you can technically build up other superstars, or sorry, not superstars, wrestlers. It's the WWE in me. Wrestlers, build them up and have them, actually be on TV instead of just like, oh, here comes Moxley, he's the next contender. Oh, here comes Britt Baker, they're the next contender. It's like, no,
Mm-hmm.
you're building up talent, which is really nice because seeing the same thing all the time can be very boring, and new talent
Mm-hmm.
always brings in a fresh perspective
I mean, that
to
was Copeland's whole idea of doing the Cope Open, right? Was literally, I'm going
yeah,
to start at the back, which means I'm going to fight all the dudes you don't see very often to
yeah.
supersede their rank, right?
And he's done a great job of wrestling literally anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Like you just points in a direction, and they go, and they have a 10 to
Little,
12 or 15
yeah, little
minute
like 5 to
great
eight
match.
minute banger in the middle of Dynamite or Collision that,
Yeah,
you know, highlights
because
the talent that's there, keeps Copeland, from ring rust, but
yeah.
doesn't also just mean that he's just, basically paying his way in because he's a big name.
And apparently, Mariah May has been wrestling in the Tony year, so
Yeah.
that's interesting. That makes a bit of sense if they want to keep this going, especially
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like if they are going to continue the Deanna storyline, it'll be nice. I think it's funny. I do also hope Mariah May gets her time to shine, like
Yeah.
outside of this, even if it is turning on Tony or they just disband. I think Mariah May is a great talent. Hold on, Chris. I know where you're going with this. I
No, no,
just
no,
think
no. I
Mariah
have a whole different thing, but do your thing.
I just think Mariah May, from where she came from to where she is now, face or heel, whatever, deserves time because she's fucking just kills it in the ring. Great wrestling talent. Can be probably better on the mic, but again, she doesn't really get a chance to talk too much. But we'll see where it
I
goes.
have a weird theory, and I'm calling my shot because it worked the last time with the EVP trigger. Here's what I'm throwing out to you, Johnny. This is what I'm proposing to you.
What's up?
Who was Tony with before she went timeless?
Oh, the Outcast, right?
Mm-hmm. One of the last things that I saw of the Outcasts was Soraya and Ruby had acquired, allegedly, and I quote, a new crazy blonde, which was, I cannot
Oh,
remember her name, but she was originally with QTV and that whole
oh, that's
fiasco
right. Yeah.
when Marshall was still around.
Hmm.
What if at some point Soraya brings the idea of we're gonna go attack Tony, and because she's kind of the clueless blonde, she attacks Mariah because she looks like old Tony.
Ooh, I'd be okay with this.
I'm throwing that out there. I don't know what it would lead to, but I'm throwing out there that at some point, because she's dressed like old Tony, someone is going to attack her thinking she is Tony.
Hmm. I'm okay with this. I
It's a
think
weird
again,
Hail Mary, but just it makes
I
sense for
I
what it was.
I will always and forever, no matter how far we go, be in the camp of more women on TV. It's not
100%.
a it's not a bad take. I think if you think it's a bad take, you're just you hate women
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. But it's like I just think more women on TV is perfectly fine. They're trying to be the same as men, and they should be seen as the same men. Book them equally, or book them more or less, but never book them to the point where it's like one women's match and like 8 men's matches. I think that's
Yeah.
stupid because it doesn't make any sense. You make them look like a lesser, brand or lesser talent. It's like they're not,
Yeah.
but
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't help that we're about to segue into a better match. But
Dude, I'm gonna say this now. This is my match of the night.
oh, for sure, for sure.
Osprey Takeshita goes so fucking hard, dude.
So I will say this: I was very happy Takeshita got a new entrance theme.
He has music finally.
He
I'm
has
so
music
happy.
because I will give a shout out to One Farting Tart for saying this, and I couldn't unhear it. He apparently it was coming out to the brown note, and I
the
was
way
like,
I've
okay.
the way I
I
have
was like,
described it since the day they debuted the Don Callis droning is that before Callis goes out, he walks up with a brick and just knocks out the pianist and he falls asleep on the fucking keyboard.
yeah, Takeshita comes out in I would say like a demon mask
Yeah,
or
it's an
like
Oni mask, yeah.
an Oni mask. Thank you. Very happy. Fucking Takeshita looks like a million bucks.
Oh
Love
yeah.
this man to death. Not the character currently because it's the whole dealing with Don Callis, but Takeshita as a wrestler, fantastic. Uh, but then making his official AEW debut as a
All elite,
signed
bruv.
a
All
signed
elite, bruv.
competitor,
Fucking
one Will Ospreay. And I will say this: I of course didn't lose my voice at this event. The moment the da 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 da, and then he's just like from the very first lyric till it stopped, I was singing my heart out
Oh yeah.
because this is the entrance that I was like, I'm excited, I'm ready, I know the lyrics, and then like, oh, this man, this myth, this legend.
This banged up back because they dropped him on a fucking turnbuckle. God, that did not go
Yeah.
how they wanted it to, dude.
No, and apparently he was like actually hurt. Like what I
Yeah.
mean by that is like he had a true and cut bruise. Like they showed it, I
Mm-hmm.
believe, in the presser. Uh, this match, there's a lot to cover in this match.
Dude, this match is so good. This is like one of my best. This to me is one of the best matches we've had of the year,
I
hands down.
yeah, we are in just March, but again, I think unless a lot of again we have a whole year ahead of us. This
Mm-hmm.
is going to be in the match of the year
Contendership.
conversation for quite a bit of time.
Oh yeah.
This at its heart, if you were to show like what's a New Japan match kind of like, if they
This.
want to full go, this is hard hitting. This is like truly saying how is he still alive, and then this is just Osprey at his finest. This is Takeshita at his finest.
Yeah.
This is also apparently for those unaware, these two members are part of the Don Callis family,
Yeah.
and
I
this
have a
was supposed to
theory.
be
I have a
an
theory behind this.
exhibition match.
I have a theory about this as well.
and this was supposed to be them going back and forth, and then they proceed to go out there and put on a banger. There is a little bit of controversy around this match a little bit, with a few spots.
There's a couple of sketchy spots, but I mean that's how they've always, I mean, look at every match that we've ever seen of Osprey. Like, look at him and Kenny at Wrestle Kingdom last year with that fucking Tiger Driver. Like,
Yeah,
this is the stuff that he does, right? This is what
yeah.
he's always gone out and done.
It, this is a type of match where you have to trust your dance partner.
Mm-hmm.
You have to trust your teammate. You have to trust the other person in the ring. And these two clearly have had history.
Oh yeah,
Like, you can't tell me that they've like this is the first time meeting and then putting a match together. No, this is the classics of putting together a match. Back and forth, hardest hitting chops, slaps, kicks, knees, elbows, suplexes off the top,
dude.
dropping people on their
That
back.
also, there is a corkscrewed Spanish fly in there that hurts my brain to process how he
Yeah,
did that. It is
yeah.
so clean. I was losing my mind. I was like, how? It's like I I understand how these things are done for the most part, and
Mhm.
then you watch an Osprey match and you're like, I don't understand physics anymore.
Yeah.
Like some of the stuff they pulled off in this match, it's just like it's insane.
From the hidden blades to the pile drivers to
Mm-hmm.
just shot after shot after shot. And then, of course, the narrow 2.99 kickouts was
Mm-hmm.
incredible. Was fantastic. There's a lot of purist wrestling fans out there that think selling is important. I understand it. I get it. This match had a few where it's like, why aren't they selling? I think I don't like giving this man any credit in wrestling ever. Hulk Hogan having the ability to start shaking furiously and having the ability to not be affected by damage, I would equate that to this. It's
Mm-hmm.
like there's adrenaline. I think it's like a pure adrenaline thing where it's like that's why they're not selling. There's so much adrenaline going in your body, you don't feel pain.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course that led to probably the biggest and best spot of the entire match, where they just hit each other, hit each other, hit each other, hit each other, and then you finally get the hidden blade.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course Osprey getting the victory. Uh
And then Callus goes and starts talking to both of them, and we don't hear a
yeah.
word of what he says, even on TV.
So I will ask this: how was Callus on commentary?
He was good. He was very much just doing what he always does, which is talk up the family and talk up both of them.
Mm-hmm.
I have the working theory, and this is actually partially Maple's idea as well, but the kind of working theory that I have at the moment is the idea that the part of the reason he has pitted them against each other, and part of the reason why he then pit Osprey and Fletcher, is I think he is trying to see if anybody in the family has the capacity to beat Osprey, and if not, then he will take Osprey and run with him the way he used to run with Kenny, and leave the rest of that family in the dirt.
Because I mean, recreating hypothetically the cleaner, like
The best
you
bout
want
machine,
to the
the
best
whole
bout
nine
machine.
yards,
Do you want your cash cow? Like you want the guy that you can go to Japan or be back over here or whatever
and just
and win the
ride the
title?
coattails of
Yeah,
victory with him.
because that's what Down Callus has always been. He's always been that skeevy scumbag who just wants money and
Mm-hmm.
doesn't truly care about his, wrestlers he's managing, because it's like he'll run you into the ground, milk you dry, and then like get rid of you. I.e., basically what he did with Kenny and to Takeshita, and to possibly Osprey. I
Mm-hmm.
just think at this point, if he does do this, I think Osprey's gonna be smart enough. Is the biggest thing,
Yeah,
because Takeshita was like, "Oh, you view me as a gold boy. You actually view me for my worth." That's why they turn on Kenny, and of course Kenny was a heel at the time, so it's like, why would I care? Let's just like,
yeah.
he's not really paying attention to it.
Yeah, it's one of those things of like I very much went into this match going the loser leaves Callus family, and this is how they
Mhm.
let Osprey do his own thing. Like,
Yeah.
but it didn't play out like that, and I was genuinely surprised, and I'm curious to see what plays forward with that. Touching on this a little bit as well, though, we do already have one match booked for next month's pay per view
We do.
after Osprey beat Fletcher in a
Mhm.
non-title match for the ROH TV, like because Fletcher's currently ROH TV champ, but it was
Yeah.
a non-title match. But then Danielson comes out, so we're getting Osprey Danielson at Dynasty, and that shit is gonna go hard.
Yeah, I think I unless some left field thing happens, this is gonna be another contender for A, match of the night, and B, possibly match of the year.
Mm-hmm.
I again, unless either are dealing with injuries, there's no stopping the momentum the Osprey has.
No.
Like if he can have a full year of wrestling in AEW without getting hurt, I think you're going to be looking at wrestler of the year by a large margin.
Yeah.
Because again, right now he's spinning gold is
Mm-hmm.
the biggest thing. Because I get it. It's only been 2 matches, but they've been both been really really good matches, and
Mm-hmm.
you're introducing Osprey to again to the casual wrestling fan for the first time outside of like the few events he wrestled for AEW, and that's a big deal because it's like you
Yeah.
want to be different, and you're out the gate proving you're different in a good way.
Yeah.
I will say the Fletcher and Osprey match was very good. It deserved the TV time it got on Dynamite.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot it wasn't a title match until I was like, "Is he gonna hold up the title?" And it's like, "Oh, it was non-title." It's like, okay,
Yeah.
but yeah, it was
Speaking of
pretty good.
title, we've got our last two to talk about.
Oh my god!
Dude, fucking triple threat for the world championship. Joe Hangman Swerve, in which Hangman taps to Joe probably a lot sooner than he ever would have because Swerve was getting close to winning and Hangman beat the shit out of like two different refs. And there was so much that really solidified that Swerve is a face and Hangman is a heel now, dude.
This is a really fun match. It's a really good
It
match.
was.
It is interesting. Okay, this is another thing where the title holder plays kind of backseat
Mm-hmm.
to the other two
Yeah.
because these two hate each other a lot,
Oh, yeah.
and I'm just like I'm okay with this. It's also one of those things where we did as a crowd as a fan kind of let swerve off easy with a lot of things because people kind of just like forgot about it's like, hey, remember when Swerve until he brought up broke into Hangman's house and then threw a
Mm-hmm.
T-shirt over his like baby child?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, but like it's wrestling is the biggest
He
thing. Like,
even addressed that on Dynamite,
yeah,
where he was like, "This is the first time like I noticed on Sunday that people were rooting for me, and I
yeah,
couldn't get it done." And he goes, "Maybe that's the universe is karma for all the bad shit that I've done here."
yeah,
And it's like they
but
really are starting to push him more as a face, which I think you need a proper face champion to
mhm,
beat Joe, because like MJF was not really he wasn't heel, he wasn't really face. He was kind of both. You know what I mean? Like he was still a piece of shit. And Joe
yeah,
is heel. There I don't think Joe has ever done a face run. I don't think he ever really could. I think he fits
I
that
I think it's
intimidating
natural.
demeanor.
It's a natural. I'm a heel, which
Yeah.
I appreciate. I respect.
Yeah. So I think
Um,
you do need a face to dethrone him,
yeah,
but who's to say?
I think Joe deserves a true contender as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like nothing against Hook. That was a great match. This match, another great match. I imagine the Wardlow match gonna be great. I would like a true 1v1, like a true
Yeah.
this is
Make
who I'm
it a
facing
straight head on clean fight.
because I don't want this title reign, however long it's gonna go, I don't know, to just be oh, Joe's title reign was great, but it's like he never no real
Yeah, like
rival
weird
stuck out.
stipulation over weird stipulation.
It's like that he doesn't have to wrestle to stipulations. He's good enough. At one point, he was probably one of the best wrestlers in the world. Not that
Mm-hmm.
he's not now, but it's like back in like the mid early the late 2000s and into 2010s and even like maybe the teens. Uh, he was really good. He's still really good, and it's like he also can still move in the ring
Mm-hmm.
for someone his size and his like not age, but like he's just really good. And I don't think there's a lot of talent on this roster that could have a bad match with because
Yeah.
he understands the technical side of it all, which is really
Mm-hmm.
nice.
Oh, absolutely. Absolute banger match. I wish Swerve had won it, but I do like that Hangman essentially throwing the end of the
Yeah,
match really puts the nail in the coffin of where they stand amongst each other.
I would very much have liked to have a moment because of course he tapped. I would have liked to see like sort of course going to break up the submission, them locking eyes, and while he's just staring at him, willingly tapping.
Yeah.
Not because like it's him losing, but it's also him making sure Swerve just didn't win.
Hmm.
And he did that, but I think that you have that like epic like scene. I think would have solidified the
I will
entire
say,
rivalry.
from a commentator side of things, they did a really good job of sowing those seeds of
Yeah,
did Hangman tap earlier. The commentary did a really good job of like even them being confused, like that felt early. Like, and them immediately planting those seeds within moments of it happening was a
yeah.
really good point from, a TV perspective.
Hmm.
And then moving on from there, because, dude, I know we're going to talk so much about this final match, dude, because you probably have a lot to say on it.
Yeah, a little bit.
Dude, so final match, Darby Sting versus the Bucks for the tag titles. Darby and Sting win it, which now has opened up a tournament for the vacant spot, which I'm really happy for because now we get to highlight a lot of the tag teams that have probably been pushing or wanting to, you know, build up a lot of that for a while now.
Yeah.
But oh my god, I don't know a lot about Sting, right? Like I'm new to wrestling. For
Hmm.
compared to the history of the industry versus what I know is insane. But watching the snippets in that video package of him sat in the theater, all of those highlights throughout his career, I was getting emotional. So I can't imagine what it was like for you.
So, do you mind if I just
Go
for a
for it.
minute?
The floor is
Okay,
yours.
so I'm getting goosebumps right now. So since 2000, this is not a joke. This is not me just pulling a year out of my ass. 2000, maybe 99. I've watched a lot of wrestling. Sting, of course, stuck out like a sore thumb. He was an anti-hero. At the time I was watching him, he was an anti-hero. He was Crow Sting. Before that, he was Surfer Sting. I fell in love with this man in terms of wrestler because he was different. He didn't have to be cheered. He came down from the rafters. He carried a baseball bat. He hated Hulk Hogan. And at that point, it was cool to hate things, but even at the same time, people loved the Nippo. But he was just cool. And it's like it felt like a hero to me because it's like at that point I'm like a little kid and you gravitate to heroes. And like he was so cool. And then 2001, 2002 hit, and then WCW is of course bought by WWE. Sting doesn't show up. That broke Little Me's heart because Sting just didn't show up, and you don't know why because you're a kid. And he doesn't show up for a while, and you're just like, I guess he's kind of done. At this point, I know about TNA at all. Sting was the only reason I watched TNA because he showed back up, and I was like, oh, I'm reliving that childhood memories and moments in love. And then he, of course, has a glorious, I would call it a glorious run from Joker Sting to regular Sting to main event Mafia. He did it all. But he always wanted to be a face because he always felt like he wanted to be your favorite wrestler. Cut to the teens. And one of my favorite wrestling moments of all time because it felt like a literal gift. Survivor Series of I forget the year. The specific date makes me very happy. Was November 23rd, my birthday. And then the lights go out. I'm like, it was rumored. It was heavily rumored. And then you hear a fucking crow. And I was like, no fucking shot. And then out comes Sting, and I was like, I'm a kid again. I was genuinely crying because I was like, this is so fucking cool. And then the run happens with WWE that wasn't the best. He ends up getting hurt. He almost gets like really bad hurt, and then of course he goes away again. And then wrestling keeps evolving, and then AEW gives him an opportunity to wrestle again. I was like, okay, this is clearly we're winding down. He's already in his 60s. We're winding down. He gets a shot with Darby, and for was it 2 years? Right? I want to say
Yeah,
two or
a
3 years.
year or 2 years.
He's doing tag matches, and I'm like, okay, this is cool. He's slowing down, but like, he's probably gonna retire then. And then you get the news that Revolution's gonna be his last match. I'm like, you've got to hit the end of the road sometime, and then it's like I get a message from Tard, of course. Hey, Revolution's going to be like 30 minutes from my, where I live. And I'm like, okay, do you want to go? And I'm like, yeah, I kind of do. Because as much as I've watched Sting, I've never been in an arena where he's competed, is the biggest thing. And then going to see his final match
Mm-hmm.
was probably one of my favorite wrestling memories of all time. Mostly because I got to chant "Thank you, Sting." I got to see him wrestle his final match. He came out to Seek and Destroy, which he hasn't
Yeah,
done since
he
WCW.
he came out. So his entrance, by the way, literally made me emotional. And again,
Yeah,
I didn't grow up with it the way you did, but having his one son in Surfer Sting gear, his other son in Wolfpack gear, him in his current gear to Seek and Destroy, and on commentary, dude, Shivani broke me because Shivani's like, for the last time, and he does the big "it's Sting," and I'm like, that was the moment of him going for the last time, and that's when it hit me, and I was
yeah,
like, ugh. But like, also found out, fun fact, all of the gear his sons was wearing was his
yeah.
original
It
gear.
was his
None of it
original
was
gear.
remade. That is his legit original gear for those gimmicks.
I will say I don't know their names. I think it's like Steve is one of them, and I think Garrett is the other
I
son.
believe Garrett, yeah, is the other son.
I don't know who was in which. Whoever was in the Wolfpack Sting
He can
gear.
jump,
Oh
dude.
my fucking god! It's like
Dude,
we're gonna do Stinger splashes in the air. Like I'm
yeah.
like this is
Because, like, yeah, you look at the Stinger Splash, right? And it's always been that thing of, like, guy in the corner, and you jump from, like, kind of halfway between the turnbuckle and center of the ring. You kind of jump from, like, the halfway between.
yeah.
His son's jumping from middle, like, center of the ring to the turnbuckle and
And he's
landing him,
almost
like,
over jumping them. Like
yeah,
it's like I was like, oh my god. They did great. It was very fun. And then again, being in attendance for this was weird because we almost watched a man die.
dude, Darby Allen is a lunatic.
Yeah.
To
For,
take a dive from in the ring on top of like a 16-foot ladder off the top onto what was supposed to be a young buck who got pulled out of the way by the other one through a full like quarter-inch thick sheet of glass suspended on chairs.
yeah, and he's
Like,
down
oh my
for
god,
I
a
would say
while.
90% of this match. It was interesting because I don't know how often they cut to him like during the pay-per-view,
Not
but
often after he did that.
so it was very interesting to see this because he's face down. He
Mm-hmm.
doesn't like get he of course at the end gets up, but he doesn't really move. Medical constantly checking on him,
Mm-hmm.
and like the only reason we knew he was still alive on occasion, one of his feet would just do this, and that would be it.
Yeah.
Because he's just like he's dead. It's like the blood, the cut, everything. It's like
Yeah.
how.
Insane.
Um.
And
Probably,
it was so
probably
fun for it was so fun for me as well seeing that moment because it gave me flashbacks because the first Dynamite I watched, the main event, is him and Jeff Hardy, and they do the same thing except
yeah.
there's no glass there.
Yeah. We should mention that Ricky the Dragon Steamboat was at ringside
Yeah,
along with
official timekeeper.
unfortunately Ric Flair. There was a moment that made me happy during this match outside of the overall match. Ric Flair is protecting Sting. The Bucks come in. He's like, "No, don't do it. Don't do it." And they super kick Ric Flair and everyone cheered.
Yeah. Also, I don't know if you would have heard it, but the moment that they super kicked Sting and
Mhm.
he takes it and comes back from it, they look him dead in the face and they go, "We're not sorry. We don't love you." And then they fucking
Oh
kick him.
my god. I know, I did.
It's yeah, it's really really fun from the TV side of it. It was
I
just perfect.
I will say because again, this is another chant and stuff that I don't know I came across. Uh, I think it's two different times. Is just the chant "fuck you, young bucks." Fuck you, young bucks, and it's like so loud. And at one point, I think it's like Matthew was like doing the whole like hearing, and it was deafening, and I
Yeah,
loved it because it's like, oh my god. They of course they let Sting go at it. It was the biggest thing, like table
Mm-hmm.
spots, chair spots,
Getting
a
thrown through
glass
his own,
spot.
yeah, through his own pane of glass. Like,
Uh, yeah, like this is a match I would recommend if you ever want to watch history of wrestling. Like you want to
mm-hmm.
see from the technical beginning to an end of an entire like 40-year career. It was the best match I think you could have gotten out of Sting.
Oh,
I don't
100%.
think his last match ever was going to be a singles match. Like,
No. He had said, like, he can't, like, he was saying, but, like, going into this last year, he's like, I can't handle singles matches.
yeah,
I would have loved, had he been physically able to, like, if he had been physically able to put on a 20-minute singles match, I would have loved for it to have been Sting versus Darby.
yeah,
Right? Just that idea of, like, you would have got, Shawn Michaels to Ric Flair, right? Like, those moments
mhm,
of, like, retiring your mentor, which would have been great. But
yeah,
this to me was the perfect send off for him. The way they presented, like, the build up into it, that moment of him in the theater by himself watching his highlights and him going,
yeah.
it's showtime for the last time, coming out with his sons in his old gear to
Mhm.
seek and destroy. Like, everything about it. It's just perfect.
So I will say this. Until day of, it was a 50-50 who was going to win this match. We truly didn't know. A lot of people thought it was going to be the Bucks. A lot of people thought it was
Mhm.
Sting. Sting and Darby, of course, go on to win this match. But if funny enough, it was Sting's decision to lose. Was the biggest thing
Sting wanted to put the Bucks over.
for because for wrestlers, the old adage always is going out on your back, giving it to the people who's going to be there next week because they're not going to, especially if you're retiring. I will. I That's why I respect the Bucks as
Yeah.
people. They didn't want that.
Hmm.
Tony Khan didn't want that.
They wanted
It's
him to be able to retire on top because of the way things ended with WWE.
Yeah,
They wanted to give him a retirement that was worthy of him.
because and this is not like to disregard this as a match. This is Sting's retirement match.
Hmm.
For the Bucks, this is another match.
Yeah.
Like they can take this loss and they'll be okay with it, and they
Hmm.
were. But it's like this is your last match. You're never gonna do this again. Even though I think there was a joke during the press, it's like he wanted 6 more months, but he wasn't gonna do 6 more months because he going again all out. But it's like, yeah, it's like I get it, but it's like you're not gonna do this again. This is your
Yeah.
farewell letter
This
to
is
40
legitimately a
years.
once in a lifetime match, right?
Yeah, and after the match and everything, they get off the air. I think it was like maybe on air for another like 2 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
Uh, for those unaware, you can't say certain things on TV, not like swears, but like you can't reference other companies that are owned by other companies. Specifically, his son dressed in red and black. You can't do the Wolfpack symbol because that's owned by WCW and WWE. So it's like we can't say that, but like the moment they're off TV, he's like, "Yeah, my son for dressing up as the Surfer Sting and then the Wolfpack Sting." Tony Khan coming out. Tony was a mess. Both Tonys were a mess. Um, it was very fun, like to see all the people love Sting.
Hmm.
Um,
Doing it in Greensboro Coliseum was, I think, the smartest thing they could have done, right?
yeah,
Because there's
I
so much
think
history of people in that city with Sting.
mhm. I think giving him his flowers was the best. Apparently, this is with Darby. Because in the press conference, they're thanking Sting and everything. Darby didn't know he had a match against Jay White until he was during the presser. Uh, and Darby, of course, got super emotional for two reasons. Of course, Sting is retiring. I didn't know this. Darby hasn't climbed Everest yet.
Yeah, I thought he had already done that.
I
Yeah, it
thought he
turns
had
out
done
he
that too.
didn't.
So it's kind of shocking that this is not. People have brought this up, and I'm not trying to look at it in the morbid sense again. That Jay White match hypothetically could be Darby's last match
He
ever.
even said that. He
Yeah,
said
it's like
that like the last week, like last Dynamite. He was literally like, after big business, I'm gonna go climb Everest. There's a chance I don't come back, so I'm gonna put everything into that match in case I fucking die on the mountainside.
Yeah, it's just like, oh my god, he's got a point. It's like,
Yeah, that had never crossed my mind until he mentioned that, and I went, "Fuck me, he better come back."
oh yeah, he better come back.
But
Let's see.
speaking of big business, because we got that in 2 days as of recording,
So,
Jay White and Darby,
Jay White and Darby,
most likely Mercedes Moné debut.
most likely Mercedes Moné, and I would say the third appearance of one of AEW's biggest signings,
Fucking
Okada.
Kazuchika Okada, the
Kazuchika
Rainmaker,
Okada.
the newest member of the Elite since Hangman is suspended for fighting refs and Kenny's been fired from the Elite.
Yeah, so Okada, of course, for those unaware, was probably one of the biggest talents ever to come out of New Japan. Uh, he is Kenny's probably ultimate rival. Their history, their matches, their just livelihoods will always be intertwined.
Mm-hmm.
He is. I put him on Mount Rushmore of at least wrestling, like as a wrestler. Um, he showed up. He turned on Eddie Kingston, and he's
And
now
looks
with
like
the
he's
Young Bucks.
and looks like he's gunning for that Triple Crown,
And he's
which would
gunning
be
for the Triple
interesting.
Crown, which kind of sucks because I don't see a world where Eddie
Eddie
Kingston
beats
can beat
Okada, not a
Okada.
chance.
Yeah, because it's again, I don't. It's nothing against Okada, and it's nothing against Eddie. It's just like, yeah, of course Okada's winning. It's a fucking Okada.
Yeah, but we do get the Franken team first of Eddie Kingston, Penta, and the returning Pac versus this new variation of the Elite.
Yeah, the death quarter, the death 2/3 triangle or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, the Death semicircle. Yeah,
yeah, the death circle. This is gonna be interesting because I'm excited for big business. I'm curious outside of course Mercedes Moné because I think we all know it's happening.
mm-hmm.
Um, what else is gonna happen on the show? No,
Yeah,
I don't think. Again, I'm okay with them giving Mercedes Moné her own like show, specifically like big
yeah.
business is because of this
I mean,
because they've done it before
they
with
gave
Punk.
Punk
And,
Rampage. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Well,
so,
what
so
was
it's
it?
like
The first dance or the last dance? It was called when he came out.
yeah, so it's like yeah, I get it. I'm just curious what else is going to be added.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we also get Wardlow and Samoa Joe on that card.
Yeah,
I think we know Samoa Joe's going to win that match. I think
yeah.
it's going to be competitive, but I don't think Wardlow is going to be like, haha, I beat you.
I
Because
feel
that'll
like
just
you're not gonna
on
give
the
that
show.
title change up on a Dynamite, unfortunately.
No, 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 no,
Title
no.
changes in the modern era very rarely will ever happen
If
on
it's,
a weekly show, unless it's a mid card thing.
I was about to say, if it's TBS or TNT, yes, because I think uh Copeland and Christian leading to that title
Yes,
might
that I
change.
Quit in Toronto is on a Dynamite, so yeah.
Yeah, but I think outside of mid card titles, or if the current world title holder is injured and can't physically compete after that,
Hmm.
yeah. But I think Samoa Joe easily just takes this. I think we're gonna get a deepening thing with Swerve and the Undisputed Kingdom.
Yeah.
But
Ooh,
yeah,
actually, you know what we might be pushing towards then?
hmm.
Mogul Embassy versus Undisputed Kingdom Blood and Guts.
I would be okay with that because we haven't had a Blood and Guts in a while. So
They run it once a
no,
year,
that's what I'm saying.
I
We
think
haven't
we are
gotten it yet.
creeping up again on
Yeah,
because I
I would
think
be
because
okay with that.
Blood and Guts has always happened just after Forbidden Door,
Hmm.
and Forbidden Door is usually their well now that they're running it annually, it's their kind of their midsummer pay per view
Yeah.
because it's like double,
So
it's Forbidden Door, Blood and Guts, Double or Nothing, so
yeah,
something
I
like
will
that.
also throw this out there. It's interesting because I always not forget that Mobile Embassy is of course with Swerve, but it's like it's a little bit distancing himself outside of Prince Nana,
Yeah.
which I'm okay with because again,
Mm-hmm.
they're still technically a heel faction. Is the biggest thing in the world. They're still heels.
Oh yeah.
They're not faces like Swerve, so they're not just gonna be like turn on a dime like he did. But I don't know. It's up in the air where it goes from here. But I
Yeah.
just again I don't see Wardlow winning this world title. I also nothing against Wardlow. I don't ever see him ever winning the world title.
I can not from Joe.
I the way I see it is because this is not Okada's fault. it's not anyone's fault for signing with a new company. I think right now the talent pool in AEW is far too deep.
Hmm.
Especially is I also don't see Swerve just like, no, okay, and then not winning.
Yeah.
Because AEW's had a issue with sometimes not pulling the trigger on your most popular talent at
Mm.
times. And it's like, just give them a chance if you're not really gonna have any in-game plans for the current title holder.
Yeah. I think it would not surprise me if we get Swerve Joe one-on-one at Dynasty.
Yeah,
Which,
because right
speaking
now,
of that, the biggest speculation I've seen online with
hmm
that color scheme of a lot of that purple and gold, people are thinking this is when MJF's gonna at least make his presence known again.
I would be okay with that.
I would too.
I um,
Four
I hope.
months off TV with no idea whether he was coming back or not, I think is a good time to
Yeah,
bring that back, right?
I hope he's not coming back too soon. Is the biggest thing. Not that I haven't missed him. I have. I just don't want him to come back and be injured still, or like still ailing a little bit.
I, here's the thing: if he comes back and he's not 100%, he is probably one of the only people on that roster that could comfortably come out and cut promos and do nothing else for
Yeah.
3 months while he recovers and recoups,
hmm
and it wouldn't be a problem, right? Like,
Yeah.
to me, him and Adam Cole are the same in that sense of like, if all they did was come out, both of them fucked up and talked shit every week until they were both healed, and then they went, all right, it's fucking showtime, right?
yeah.
Like, I could see it playing out, man, but I still am in the boat that when Max comes back, I think when Max comes back, if Wardlow if Wardlow has the title and chooses to give it up to Adam Cole,
Yeah.
I do think we're getting the full circle Wardlow turns on Cole to help MJF. Like, I've said that every episode we've done this, and it's
hmm
the one thing that lives in my head is like, I think would be the perfect circle. And then that is the moment when you fully cut Wardlow out of any factions and let him run as the monster you've built him up to recently. But who knows, man? He might show up with O'Reilly at his side as well, based on my other Hail Mary theories. But we
It
got about a month to figure it out. So,
in I guess speaking about a month, do you want to run down what we know about Mania so far, just real quick?
yeah. So we've got Rhodes Rollins versus Rock Roman night 1, allegedly Cody Roman night 2, with the caveat of if Cody loses, he never gets a shot at that undisputed or the undisputed title or whatever it is that they have. I
Yeah.
can't remember what they call it.
And then of course we have Drew and Seth. That's probably also going to be taking place on night two.
Yeah,
And then as of right now, the only other matches that we can fully confirm is Io versus Bailey, and
Bailey.
then Rhea versus Becky.
Hmm.
Which I
All of
think,
those matches are gonna fucking bang.
right now that's it's going to take a little bit more time to iron out everything else. Because of course you saw the U.S. title, you have the tag titles, you
The
have
IC.
the IC, and apparently I think tomorrow, or not tomorrow, this Friday, they're gonna just or either tonight or Friday. I don't remember. They're gonna be in deep discussions of the tag titles. Hopefully, at this point, that means they're separating them
God, I hope so.
because I think in a division where there's only one set of tag titles, in any brand where you have more than one show is idiotic. Like I get
Yeah.
with AEW, of course, they have the trios and the tag.
Hmm.
Like that's still technically two different divisions, so it's like you're still working towards something. But when you just have one pair of tag titles, you kind of make the other brand having a tag team division pointless. It's
Yeah,
like,
and
what do you?
there's so much of it, right? Like, the only good part is right now, because they have both sets, they're competing on both, so you can still
Yeah.
highlight some of it. But I really do think they need to either properly split these and leave them where they sit, of these are the Raw tag titles, these are the SmackDown, or do what you've done with every other title at this point
Mhm.
and don't associate it to a brand and make it, you know, Like, I don't
Yeah.
know what you would even call them, is the
Mhm.
problem, right? But have, like,
Yeah.
the world tag team titles here and, like, the fucking, like, something else tag titles over there, right?
Well, funny enough, in the early 2000s till about, I think, 2012 maybe, they were two different sets of tag titles. The Raw titles were the World Tag Team titles,
Mm-hmm.
and the SmackDown titles were the WWE Tag Team titles.
There you
So
go.
they
Perfect.
technically had two different looks, and again they had two different names. So it's like that works. Just call them
Mm-hmm.
something else. Like maybe one call the World Tag Team titles, and the other one's the Universal Tag Team titles. I don't know. You've been doing that a lot lately.
The real tag team titles, and spray paint some X's on it. Call it a day.
Never gonna forgive that man for that.
No,
Never gonna forgive it.
I get where the story was going, but then you
Yeah,
went and threw hands with the scapegoat and got fucking fired, and none of it mattered.
it was very interesting because it's like, can someone vie for that title to technically exist, or is it just gone forever?
Yeah.
Because it technically only had like what one
How
title defense.
how fucked up would it be if Copeland opened that box and pulled out a replica TNT and just spray
Oh
painted a
my.
fucking R over it?
There's one last thing I want to bring up, which is very interesting, because this is happening in the presser, and this usually doesn't get brought up because this feels like this is backstage stuff. One reporter asked about the contract status of Ricky Starks. Uh, Tony Khan was very honest with him. It's like, yeah, no, Ricky's still with the company. He's happy here.
Yeah.
Which begs the question, like, A, is Ricky actually happy? And B, what prompted this question? It's not a bad question because
There was rumors floating around that he had silently left the company, which is why it was brought up, because there was like weird like dirt sheet rumors of like, yeah, Ricky left. Because especially with the fact that, like, fucking Kevin Kelly has been removed from the company. Ortiz or Santana. Can't
I
remember
believe
which.
it was Santana?
Santana. Santana's no
Yeah.
longer on the roster. Kevin
So it's
Kelly's no longer there. So, like,
and I believe as of a few days ago, Matt Hardy is no longer with the company. I believe he
really
bid his I believe yesterday or the day before he bid his farewell on Twitter to the
interesting.
company. Yeah. So
I've heard
I
rumors that his contract is up soon, so it might be a thing of like they've had the discussion, and because last I had heard they were still a discussion, but no one was really seeing eye to eye. So
yeah.
it could very well be a thing of Matt has hit a point where it's like, okay, we're not meeting on this. I'm just gonna ride it out, and I'm gone, and I'm not
Mhm.
renewing. Right, which is gonna suck, especially for Jeff, because I assume Jeff will have had time
All
extended on his contract due to
the
when he
constant
was in
injuries
rehab,
mentioned and everything. Yeah.
and now that he's injured, probably had more time put on it.
I will
Which
openly say this though. This is not about Jeff. This is about Matt. I think it's the right move. I don't see a reason to honestly resign him
no,
because it's like it's not necessary. You're a liability in the ring at this point because of your like the way you move and everything in the ring. And it also seems that
they've been unhappy for Matt, especially has been unhappy how they've been booked for a long time,
yeah.
apparently, and it's one of those things of like, don't get me wrong, the Hardy brothers are pivotal in
Mhm.
wrestling's history. They are not crucial to
No.
AEW's tag division. And
No.
I think that's what they had expected and what they had hoped for. And
Yeah.
when it didn't play out like that, they got frustrated.
You go back 10 or so years, even like 5 or 6 years, like when they first came back to WWE and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's like if it was that Hardy's, or even of course 2000s Hardy's. Yeah, I could see you guys running the show, but it's like no, not anymore. Like
Yeah.
I feel bad saying this, but it's like you guys aren't needed anymore, but it's not like you were never needed. Like you paved the way for so many tag teams.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to say how to play out, right? It's one of those things of like, but again, AEW's got, I mean, and this is partially because the Bucks always wanted an insane tag division because that's what they do, right? So they wanted
Yeah.
to have the best of the best to be able to compete with. So it's like between like the Bucks, Top Flight, fucking FTR, any pairing of the BCC, House of Black, like,
Yeah.
you know, Death Triangle / just the Lucha Brothers in general
Hmm.
had they taken the offer, they wanted the Briscoes,
Yeah.
right? Like
Um.
there's such a depth in that tag division, and
Yeah.
that's why I'm really happy that the title's vacant right now, because now we get to highlight anywhere between, I would say, 8 to 12 of those tag teams.
Yeah. I would say so.
Because what you could probably realistically, my guess is what they're going to run is it's going to be probably like half the tournament on Dynamite, half the tournament on Collision.
Collision, and then have them.
Winner, quarterfinals all the way up to semis, and then finals will be winner from each half going for it. Probably at Dynasty would be my guess.
If or we'll do this and we'll probably wrap up.
Yeah.
Fantasy booking. I guess not really fantasy booking. Who do you want to see in the finals? Who do you want to see win?
Oh god, let me look at this roster real quick. Hold on.
Because I think I know who I want to win, but at the same point, I think I know who's probably going to win, but it's hearsay.
Well,
Because I would have to see the bracket is the biggest thing.
speak your mind while I skim through and try and figure out.
So realistically, because they have been putting in the time and effort, I think Combat Club probably should be the ones who wins the tag titles. Because at that
Okay.
point, you're adding them to a long list of great champions who have held them. And also, you'd have very competitive championships. And you would bring so much strength to those titles because you'd have to beat probably one of the best tag teams in the division and also some of the best competitors
Mm-hmm.
like on the roster as well. So it's like it would be a true like wouldn't be a walk in the park for it. I hope they don't do this, but I feel like they're going to do this. I feel like the Bucks are going to win the titles because they're EVPs and they're just going to like make it there or whatever, and
Yeah.
probably like somehow book their way to like the easiest kind of like to the finals because it's just like I feel like you have to lean towards having the Bucks more on TV, which is nothing is stopping them from being constant on TV, but giving them the titles would prove that like you would always have a spot for the tag titles and a spot for the Bucks on TV. But that's kind of who I want to see win is BCC, but I think the Bucks are going to be the ones who take the titles.
That's fair. Now, the mark in me wants Dark Order to win it, but I know that's not happening. And
Let it go, Chris. Let it
I'm willing to admit the fact that it's not going to play out the way I want it
go.
to.
Fair.
I think I don't disagree that the Bucks are probably going to be the ones to take it
Mm,
purely because of the fact of, how they're doing things right now.
yeah.
But I wouldn't hate the idea of some very. Ooh, actually, I think I know what I would want now. If the Bucks are going to be in the finals,
Hmm.
give me the Bucks versus some variation of best friends, be it Chuck and
Ooh.
Trent or Orange Cassidy and Rocky or however you want to mix and match it, because then you get the beautiful moment of what does Okada do?
There's chaos.
Because he's part of the elite now, but he's the founder and head of chaos.
Yeah.
And I think that would be a really fun moment to really solidify like Okada doesn't give a fuck about what used to be, it's what's now.
Yeah.
And I think
It's who's signing the checks now.
yeah, which I think would be great, and I think that's a great way to run it. If you don't go that route, I would love some variation of the House of Black, be it Kings of the Black Throne or just any two of them, because they
Yeah.
haven't helped. Because the fact that Julia is the only champ in there right now
Mhm.
feels like a travesty to me.
Oh, I
um,
fully agree.
but the other thing that could be interesting is if the Bucks win it, let them run with it until the Golden Lovers are both back from injury,
Yeah, I can see that. It's
because then
also
then you get Kenny Kota versus the Bucks,
mhm.
and you get what we were supposed to get way back come Golden Jets, basically,
Yeah.
right? But you get it the way it should have gone down, which
Yeah.
is the Golden Lovers
Which
versus the Young Bucks.
because again, I don't think Coda, I imagine we have a slight timetable, but Kenny is like, I don't think there's a true timetable.
I don't
Which,
think so, but I have the weird feeling that things are going better than they expected, and the only reason why is the fact that Darby was willing to name drop him before his match with the Bucks, and the fact that they have said that he's quote fired from the Elite. I feel like you don't bring attention to that unless you have an idea that he'll be back soon-ish.
yeah, okay, yeah, I could see that. I could definitely play into
You know what
that.
I mean? Like if there was still 100% no idea when Kenny was coming back, like Darby's made sense even if Kenny isn't, because Darby's line was there was at one point in time an EVP here that was actually thinking right, and I'm not talking about Kenny Omega
Hmm.
because he was throwing shade that Cody was the one that brought him into the company,
Yeah.
which is still great for that moment. But if the Bucks are bringing up Kenny, that makes me feel like one of two things: either the timetable for him coming back is sooner than we expected, or the timetable for him coming back is way longer than they had hoped. And so them being like, hey, Kenny's out is the way of them being like, don't expect him back.
Yeah.
It's one of the two, right?
Because speaking of Kenny and his return, this was brought up briefly again during the presser. He's being promoted a bit for the Canada shows, and even Tony Khan was like, he's not going to be cleared by then. That's weird that he's like being promoted, but at the same time, it's like, Tony, don't you review these just slightly
You would hope,
before they come
but you
out?
never know. Yeah.
Yeah. So at least we
Yeah.
know he's not going to probably make a physical appearance in Winnipeg in Canada, which is a bummer, of
Mm-hmm.
course. But it's better to get that news out there now and then be like
Yeah,
booking,
absolutely.
like, oh, Kenny's ready to be back and he's going to do all these things. It's like, probably not,
Yeah.
but
I
who's to
Part of me
say?
would love for him to be back
Oh,
in
yeah.
time for when he comes back around my neck of the woods.
Hmm.
Because they're doing the stint in Canada and then they're coming back and then they're doing the second stint most likely around the
That's
next Owen Hart.
right.
And so
Yeah.
I'm like in my head because I'm like, we get Dynamite this time. Last year we had Collision, now we get Dynamite Rampage. So in my head
Hmm.
I'm like, dude,
He might,
there's so
but
much music. I can't wait. But we are
oh,
hella over what we normally do, by the way.
yeah, a little
So,
bit.
but I kind of figured that would happen with Revolution. But
Mhm.
yeah, for everyone who stuck through it all, thank you so much for watching. As always, leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe to keep up on all of it. And yeah, we will see y'all gamers in the next one.